Welcome back to the Fast Life Podcast, which is brought to you by my guys at Simpson Motorcycle Helmets. For years, Simpson's been keeping my head safe while I'm out on the road doing my thing, and they can do the same for you. Check them out at simpsonmotorcyclehelmets.com, as well as at Instagram at Simpson Motorcycle Helmets. Man, it feels so fucking weird to be back home, but I'm so stoked to start dropping these podcasts. Today's episode is with none other than Vic Newmark. He's a good friend. I painted his bike a long time ago. That's how we met. And you may or may not have heard of him, but he is the face and some of the acting behind John Taylor, who played on Sons of Anarchy. He's a biker. He's an FXR guy. He's been widely respected in the FXR community, and he's out of Ventura. He's just always been a rad dude, and I'm really stoked to finally get him on the podcast. We've been hanging out for years now, and I'm really stoked about this. And I want to thank him and his wife for opening up the house for me and Jaden, a.k.a. Dragon, to come stay and kick it with him. So let's hear from these sponsors, and then I cannot wait for you guys to hear this podcast. House of Harley Davidson, located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, has your HD covered with the performance upgrades we all want, along with service, sales, and a stacked parts department. Head on over to houseofharley.com, where you can order the parts you need for your bike, along with all the best gear and clothing available. Drop the Fast Life offer code to save yourself 13% on your online purchases, and give these guys a follow at House of Harley on Instagram. Lexan Moto is my Bluetooth headset company and has been for over 3 years now. The quality and sound and battery life make those long days on the open road much more enjoyable. Their latest headset, the G16, is designed to make group rides much better with a 16-rider comm system, Bluetooth 5.0 music sharing, and fast USB-C charging. Among the many things Lexan does for our motor community, they also offer the best customer service in the industry. The team at Lexan just dropped their new Lexan Smart Tire Pump as well, which is a portable tire pump that can fit easily in your saddlebags. Check out lexan-moto.com to see all the awesome products, which are all designed to make life on two wheels better. And don't forget to drop the Fast Life offer code at checkout to save yourself 15%. And lastly, give these guys a follow on Instagram at Lexan Moto. Thundermax and their ECM computers are designed to provide your EFI-equipped Harley Davidson with the most advanced auto tuning on the market. And they just released their modules for the 2021 and up HD models. A Thundermax ECM eliminates tuning hassles when upgrading your exhaust or air cleaner, or when adding a cam or big bore kit. Thundermax is also in the suspension game with their iRide rear suspension. This is a performance air ride, which gives you the ability to adjust many aspects from the handlebar mounted touchscreen. This rear suspension is the best of both worlds. Check out these products at shoptmax.com and use offer code FASTLIFE to save yourself 10% off, and follow Thundermax EFI on Instagram. I have been riding with Lucky Dave's seats and handlebars on almost all my bikes since 2016, and I'm happy to announce their partnership with us here at the Fast Life Podcast. Their seats have always been the perfect fit for my ass, and with that trademark styling that I have come to love from the LD brand. Lucky Dave's also has some of the most dope handlebar options, from their classic San Diego bar to their Peacemaker bar and riser combos. They got what you need. I'm personally running the Peacemaker bars on both my T-Sport and Bagger. Head on over to luckydaves.com to check out all of their options for your HD, and grab yourself some swag while you're there. And lastly, give my guys a follow on Instagram at Lucky Daves. Now here we go with Victor, who is also known as John Taylor. Here we go.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
Fast Life Podcast.
Are you waiting on me to talk? Everybody's on their phone.
Let's you can flip through pictures, and then you can just see who's who you want to talk about.
Well, Vic, thanks for doing this, man. Knowing you since I believe 18, I think it's when you hit me up about painting the bike, and I mean it's been a fun time knowing you, and pretty wild to say the least. You're the only person I know that I have a phone number to that's been in movies. So thank you for hanging out with us nerds.
It's an honor, Jace, to just be on the Fast Life podcast. There's so many greats you've had on this mic, and it's an honor that you even would choose me.
It wasn't easy to get you to do the podcast, though.
No.
You better. You got a face for TV, not a voice for radio. Is that the situation?
I got a dick for porn too.
Well, bless you. What did he say earlier? I'd ruin it.
Yeah.
Couldn't have a vagina. I'd ruin it.
Fuck. I would, man. Here, I got you guys some gifts because I know you guys are kind of fans.
Fuck yeah.
So I don't know where you can put that, but that's a rare piece right there.
What do you have to do to get these?
Kill somebody.
Fuck yeah.
That's the funniest story because I
say who. Just point me where. Tell me who.
No. I was estranged from my mom for a period of time, and I was spending some time with a particular club, and I asked her to go to lunch with me so I could, kind of clean the water there, and she thought that you had to kill somebody to be a member of a club, and I just thought that was ridiculous. But
we were growing up, we thought you had to do that to be in a gang. If I didn't know you'd have to do any of that, I would have probably been in a gang growing up.
Not me.
No, it was well, I mean, dude, you've had such a wild life. From the short stories you give me and the life book that your wife just wrote for us.
Which she's rad, by the way.
Yeah,
thank you guys so much for putting us
I got lucky with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, from the stories I've heard, you definitely have.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, where does a path like yours start? I mean, are you originally from California proper? Like,
yeah, I was born in California in the 60s, and it was a different life than California today in 2020. It's night and day, and anybody that has been around for 50 years in that state can tell you it's not the state they grew up in. So it's definitely changed, and it was my time to get out of there. But I grew up just a normal life like everybody else, I guess, and had come from a broken home. And, my mom remarried a real wealthy guy, and my dad was, kind of a bum. And he spent 13 years in prison before I was born. So he was kind of like the rougher edge guy. And, so my mom remarried, and I didn't get along with my stepdad at all. So she said, you're going to go live with your real dad. And so I kind of grew up bouncing between homes and feeling kind of unwanted, throughout my life. So I kind of had to grow up quick as an individual.
what two different neighborhoods were you bouncing back between?
Well, I lived in a town in Thousand Oaks, Newbury Park, California. So it's a predominantly upper middle class white community, and then I lived in a town called Oxnard, which is a predominantly Hispanic. More than that, it's just multicultural, but it's like 10% white. So it was like total culture shock from one to the other. So I had to grow up quick, and led me down some bad paths along the way, and I'm grateful to be alive.
But I mean, like, that would also probably kick off your career, or your like push into BMX and things like that growing up as well.
Yeah, it was an individual sport, so I wasn't a team sport kind of person, and I'm still really not. I'm an individual, and I believe that you get what you earn. So as an individual athlete, it's all on you. Either you win and do good, or you lose and you fail and you try harder. So
I wonder if that plays into people's minds when they think about, like, when you have team sports and individual sports. Wow, you have to take full ownership of a loss as an individual.
Absolutely.
Like, you don't get to pass blame on the kicker that missed the field goal, or the guy that dropped the catch, or the dude that struck out, or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
I think it's far more valuable to be involved in an individual sport, because that's life. As you get older, You make a lot of mistakes and you have a lot of successes, and you really can't blame nobody else. Whether it be at a job or a relationship or whatever, or raising your kid, it's, you know, you have to own your shit, you know? And that's what I believe that America is kind of losing right now with the youth of today. They're everyone wants to pass the blame or not take accountability, and I think that's where we have some real problems in this country.
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially talking about today's youth, and in my generations, you know, I have a little bit of that in me too, where every once in a while, like I have the wherewithal to understand that, yeah, this is my responsibility. And there's also this little sliver of me that sometimes it wants to blame the lack of opportunity or lack of success on something because of this. You know what I mean? Like place blame somewhere else instead of my own actions.
But you can't. You know, you look at some of these people that come from hardened neighborhoods or ghettos. Look at Ben Carson. Perfect example. The dude didn't grow up in the best neighborhood. He's not white. He doesn't have any white privilege. That dude is legit. He's a surgeon. He's extremely intelligent. He's got nobody to blame. You know, it's all him. So
yeah.
It's all what you want to put into it, and that's how it is with individual sports. You get out of it what you put into it. Period.
Yeah, like I said, I think that it's just easier. It's the lesser of like being a man, but it's just easier sometimes. And I'm not saying that I'm not condoning it at all. I'm just saying, like, as a personal experience, sometimes it's easier just to be like, oh, this is because of that, instead of taking that blame for those failures and shortcomings and shit.
Well, that's if you're soft.
Yeah, well, sometimes, you know, I am a millennial. There is a softness to it, but I'm a first-year millennial, so I still have a little bit of the hardness from the my previous generation.
So when you grew up, did you do a lot of standing in corners, or did you get some ass whippings?
Oh, I got some ass whoopings. And it was funny because I remember the I had a good stint after I didn't get any ass whoopings, and I had an option one day to get an ass whooping and get grounded. And I was like, fuck being grounded. Like, that shit lasts for a long time. Like,
Right.
There's no way my ass whooping can be that bad. And she gave me an ass whooping, and I was like, that's it? I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm off. Like, it was the easiest thing in the world.
I completely understand that.
It's like, I'm out of it now, finally.
Right.
Yeah.
And I grew up with a lot of ass whippings because my real dad really had no rule book on how to raise a child. You know, he was a hood rat himself, was in a boys' foster home at the age of like 14, and they broke out of there and they beat up a priest with the bat, and like 6 of those guys escaped. They ended up getting caught later, and he was involved in some shit. It was back in Chicago, and they gave him a 20-year sentence. He was 18 years old, or 17, Damn. 20 years, and he got out in 13 years because there was a technicality that they incarcerated him as an adult when he was 17 years old, but it took him 13 years to get out.
Damn.
So he had no education on how to grow up properly and how to raise kids. And I got a lot of brothers too, and it's really weird. My father passed away, and I flew out. He was living in Arkansas, and I flew out.
I remember that. Yeah.
To say, goodbye and thanks for raising me right. And there was these 2 dudes there that I had never seen in my life, and they were my brothers. It was the fucking weirdest thing, you know. Mm-hmm. So my dad, he just messed around a lot, and I got a lot of brothers that I don't know, and I got one that I grew up with my whole life, so I know him. But yeah,
I'm in the same way. My dad has 3 other boys, one just under me, one just under him, and one as old as my daughter. And then my brother, the one that you know or have talked to or whatever, Jesse, he's technically my 3rd youngest brother, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a trip. In the old days, fucking the single dudes used to just make a lot of kids and move on, I guess.
Yeah, they didn't have any consequences back then.
No. And you know what?
Now you can't even get a hunting license or a fishing license via child support.
Ain't that the truth? I'm actually the seventh son from my dad, and I personally know 3 of them. One had passed away that I never met, but I had communicated with them, and then I got 2 others out there somewhere that I don't even know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a strange.
I think that's weird too. I mean, maybe you can attest this, but like when I see people or I meet people growing up that have brothers and sisters and they have like this relationship with them, you know, I've never really got to experience that, because even my brother that I'm the closest with, Jesse, we're still 13 years apart. So there's such a gap between, you know, by the time he was worth hanging out, I was already an adult and he was kind of, you know, like cheap labor. You know what I'm saying?
Is he still cheap labor?
No, he's starting to figure out his worth. He's one of those McDonald's employees that wants $15 an hour now and shit like that. You know,
Good for him. Striving.
But order it at the kiosk. Don't bother us at the counter.
I'm on my phone. Leave me alone.
He's a good kid.
So, yeah, I mean, like, I've always noticed that about California, and I don't want to get out of line because I'm very ignorant on sports, like team sports, and how much Southern California has produced of that. And I know there's plenty there. I'm not saying there's not. I know there is, but it's also produced some of the biggest names we've ever known in the skateboard, the BMX, all the different, like the motocross, all the different shit that's more individual based stuff. It's always came out of SoCal. So
the action sports hub is in California, period. You'll get some offshoots from maybe Texas or Florida, but the main hub of skateboarding, I mean, it pretty much started there. BMX bikes, even though some people will tell you different, it started in Bums Park with Scott Breithaupt, who, you know, he rest in peace. But surfing, some of the biggest names come out of California. Motocross, there's a ton of those guys. It's just an action sports hub, and I think that with year-round weather, you have those opportunities.
Yeah, you get to put more hours into your 10,000 hours. Yeah,
right, to your craft. And you know, it's unfortunate because a lot of athletes, especially in the extreme sports or the individualized sports, they spend a life doing their craft, and you get really popular and you get famous and you make money, and then all of a sudden you're 30-something years old and you're kind of washed up because there's another 18-year-old kid coming up, and a lot of these guys aren't programmed for the future. Mm-hmm. And there's quite a few sports athletes that have a downward spiral because they haven't planned for anything else. That's all they've done. They got a PhD in that action sport, but they have no education in college or nothing to fall back on. And you see a lot of people taking a bad path, and it happens to a lot of them.
There was a recent documentary that I watched on Tony Hawk. I love skating in the 90s and whatnot. That was my shit. And it was so funny watching, I mean, not funny, but it was so illuminating watching that story be told. But then, even though there was like a skating culture and there was competitions, his generation was the one that kind of put him on another level financially. And then watching all the downward spiral of even him, you know, trying to figure out how to live life as an action sports star and someone that's as recognizable as Michael Jordan in some aspects. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I could imagine that, like, first generation sports or action sports stars are kind of like you're paving the way for everybody to figure out how to do it later, if that makes sense.
Well, there's a skateboarding legend who is, well, there's multiple, but every bit as good as Tony Hawk, and that's Christian Hosoi. The guy's a legend. And, you know, he went down a dark path and, you know, ended up doing a little prison time from some bad decisions. He recovered from all that, and he's an excellent role model at this point, but that's what happens. You know, the fame gets to you and the notoriety, and then when that's all gone, you have that emptiness and that loneliness, and somehow you need to fill that void, and whether it be with substances or alcohol or women or whatever, it's real.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I can imagine. You know, and the other thing, I'm trying to figure out what I was going to say with that, but when you're on that path, you know, like outside entities trying to keep you on the right because you're a cash cow for them. You know, like when you're an NBA star or something like that, They don't want you on that path if people can make money off of you. Then other people start getting invested in you, keeping you on the straight and narrow. They make programs that way NBA players don't have as many kids anymore. You know what I mean? Shit like that because of the financial aspect. That if you keep letting these stars go down bad paths, then this industry doesn't have money anymore. And I think that's, probably, I can't obviously attest to it today, but I would think that today there's a lot more programs or with sponsorships with these bigger events, like there's more structure behind it to kind of keep people on a more straight or narrow path, if you will.
Well, you'd think there would be because they're basically kids when they become these pro athletes. 20 basketball, it's even as low as 18. You look at Kobe, but football players, they get out of college, you're 22 years old, and someone hands you $10 million, you're going to go berserk. You're going to go crazy. And they said there was some statistic in the NFL that a majority of those guys after 5 years are broke.
Yeah.
And you ever watch that 30 for 30 on ESPN?
Yeah, we love that shit, yeah.
And it happens.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good financial advisor and them putting money away for you because you're not smart enough to do that. You got all this money and you got women and you got toys and you got big houses and
a lot of those guys, it's the first time they've had anything. They've come from nothing, so...
And then, dun, here comes the government wanting some tax money, and then they got nothing.
Yeah.
So I unfortunately, I was never wealthy like that, but I kind of had a spiral in that athletic thing, and it's a curse and a blessing. So I started racing bicycles. I played a lot of different sports. I played baseball, I played football, I played soccer, but I liked riding my bicycle because that's what we did to go to school and back. And I got pretty good at it. But then when I turned 16, I got a car. I started hanging out with girls and stuff. I kind of let that go, and I came back in my late teens, maybe early 20s, and I followed that passion. There really wasn't any money in it at that point in time, but I did it for a while, and I started traveling around the USA, racing nationals, and I had a passion for designing bike parts. And it was I went to school and learned how to draw mechanical parts on AutoCAD, so I started getting pretty good. I was in my early 20s and winning a lot of nationals, and I was selected by the national team for USA to go to Colombia, South America, to compete in the World Championships. And I had been to a World Championships previously, but that was in '82, and I was like 15 or 14, and I think I got 7th place. I have the trophy in this house somewhere. My wife hides them all the time because she doesn't like them on the fireplace mantle. Because I'm a has-been. But
chicks, man.
Yeah, they just do it. So they run the show. So I went to the Worlds in Colombia, and it's a long story, but I get to the airport to fly from LAX to Miami to meet all the guys, and then fly from Miami to Bogota, and then from Bogota there's a police escort bus to Melgar, which is between Medellin and Cali. And at that time, there was a bounty on Americans' heads for, I don't remember if it was Bush or Reagan had just done his thing with his wife, Just Say No and all that shit. And there was some war with the Contras and some bullshit going on. So I get to LAX with my passport, and actually my passport had expired, so I got a new passport. And when I get to LAX to get on the plane, I had brought the wrong passport. I brought the old one that was expired, and they said, well, you can't get on this plane. So I got on like the shuttle or whatever and went back to my house, and I unpacked my shit, and I had put some really good bud inside of my box to fly out there with me so I would have something good to smoke. And so I started smoking it at home, and my buddy called me from Florida, and he's like, hey, you weren't on the flight? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going, whatever. He's like, no, catch the next flight to Miami. And so I grabbed my passport from my house, went back to LAX. This is like 3 or 4 hours later. I catch a flight on standby from LAX to Miami. I get on the flight. It's amazing. I get to Miami, and the USA team has already left. And so now I'm stuck in Miami. I had to catch another standby flight to Bogota. And sure as shit, I got on the plane. So I get to Bogota, and I'm like, I'm 6 foot tall. Everybody in Colombia is like 5 foot. So I got long hair. I look like the Ultimate Warrior from the wrestling days because everyone's like midgets out there. And I'm looking around. I don't speak really any Spanish. And this place, Melgar, is like an hour and a half through the Andes rainforest to this place where we're going. So somehow I met this doctor who had a really hot secretary with them, and they spoke English. They were from Miami, and they got me a taxi cab to Melgar. And I gave the guy a $100 bill and a loaf of Weber's bread and I think a pair of tennis shoes, Vans. And I get there to this race, and I was trying to get out. I kept asking him, "Donde está la coca?" Like, where's the cocaine? As we're driving through the Andes rainforest. But they have the FARC out there, which is like the guerrillas, and he wouldn't let me out of the cab. So we get to this place, this big compound, and there's armed guards outside of it, and I didn't know if it was a prison. I didn't know what it was, and he opened my door, and he was pushing me out of the car, and I was like, "Fuck, I don't want to get out here. There's fucking guys with machine guns," and it was the place I was supposed to go. And I get in there, and all the Americans were in there, and we were like very well guarded. It turns out I win this race. I become the world champion on a BMX bike, and right after that race, I saw this little kid. He wanted my tennis shoes, and I was sponsored by Vans, so I had like 3 or 4 pairs of Vans with me. So I gave the kid my shoes, and I autographed them, and I asked him, "Donde está los coca?" Like, where's the cocaine? And this kid was like 10, And he fucking said he'd be right back, and he came back like 2 hours later with like a double mint gum wrapper, that foam or that it's like a tin foil inside. Yeah. And it looked like a bindle of like a gram of blow. And I was like, "Right on, how much you want for this?" And he said $450. And I was like, $450, like 450 pesos? Like what? And he's like, "No, $450 US. So I gave him $5. I said, "Keep the change." And it was like paste. It was like freebase. It was like the purest abalone fucking bitchin' cocaine I've ever done in my fucking life. It was fucking amazing. So
for
I did
a 5 spot
for $4.50. I gave him a
keep
50
the change,
cent tip.
you filthy animal. And that's this thing you got behind you, right?
That's
the race,
world champion jersey right there. That's the podium. See these dudes with the machine guns right here? This fucking army
no
guys?
kidding. That's wild.
Wow.
So I get on the plane to come back to America. I got the gold medal around my neck. I'm feeling proud, and there's a big line in customs. And these guys walk up to me. They're wearing, suits. And they're like, "Hey, we want you to go in this other line." And there's nobody in that line. And I'm thinking, "Oh, these fucking guys know I'm the world champ. I get a fucking straight through." And the guy's like, "Well, we want you to go into this room." Because they had already seen my passport. And I had quite a colorful history as a youngster. So I get in this room, and the guy comes in with that. You remember that old computer paper that was green and white, and it had the brrr on the sides? Yeah. So he pulls this thing up, and he lets go of it, and it just goes whoosh, 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 and it's like 3 pages of my criminal history. And the guy's like, "Have you done that?" I had like, I'd been to jail already at that point, like at least 15 times. So they wanted to basically strip search me and make sure that I wasn't bringing any narcotics into the United States of America. And I didn't have anything because I did it all.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to ask. You didn't have it on you, did you?
No, I did. Every bit of it. And so I got through. So the next year when I went to the Worlds in England to defend the title, there wasn't really any drugs over there. And I ended up buying a block of hash. It was like the size of your cell phone or my cell phone. And I knew when I came back across the border they were going to fucking search me. So I melted it. I like heated it up and I rubbed it on my bike tire so it looked like mud. And then I just passed my shit through. And sure as fuck in security, they looked through all my shit again. But it looked like mud on the bike tires. And I brought that hash home with me.
Hell yeah.
It was a good life.
The guy we my buddy from Portland that came
Yeah.
to Bruce's with us, he smuggled some hash. He did a semester abroad in Holland 1 year, living in College Station, Texas, and he smuggled some hash back.
So, what is hash compared to weed or to typical marijuana?
I think it's like today you have the oils and stuff, those vape cartridges and all that stuff. Hash is basically kind of that same concept, but it's more of a pasty thing. They kind of they get the trichomes and all the stuff off the buds, and they condense it into like it's a solid, like a block, like a bar of soap. But it's just, it doesn't have any of the leaf really in it. So you're not, if you were smoking it, you wouldn't be smoking the leaf material. You're smoking the whatever it is to get you high.
It's like concentrated essentially.
Yeah, it's but it's widely available in Europe. The Afghanis are big on that stuff. So that was some adventure. So the bike industry, what ended up happening is I ended up designing a bunch of parts on AutoCAD, and one of them I patented. I got a utility patent for it. It was called the headlock, so it was like really innovative at the time. And I went to GT Bicycles, which was the largest bicycle distributor.
Of those, in the 90s.
And I thought we'd try and sell them. And so we made an appointment to go. I was making these things in my garage on a Harbor Freight lathe, and I could make like 20 a week. I thought I was the shit. And so we go to this place, and the first day they actually declined us. They're like, "No, we got something else to do. Maybe we'll see you another time." So this guy that I was working with, this guy Frank Kashar, really great guy, he sent them like a dozen pizzas and said, "Sorry, we missed lunch with you guys. Maybe another time." And they called immediately and said, "Hey, come on down tomorrow." So they knew we meant business. So go down to GT Bicycles with this one bike part that I designed, and I show it to the guys, and it's really innovative. And the guy busts out a calculator, and he starts typing in all these numbers, and I'm thinking he's going to buy some, and I'm like, okay, cool, man, I can make a little money. And he's typing, I want some blue ones, I want some gold ones, I want some red ones, I want some black ones, and he types it all up, and the total, he's like 2,600 pieces. I was like, 2,600 pieces? Can I give them to you in like 80 a month increments? And he's like, nope, I want $2,600 or 2,600 pieces. I will give you a check for half of it up front. So me and Frank, we took that money, we flew over to Taiwan, manufactured them in Taiwan, got them sent over in a container, and that started that whole deal going. And I was making royalties on every one of those parts, so I did pretty well. But then I also designed like 19 parts for another company called Azonic Mountain Bikes, and then 21 parts for a company called Adventure Components, which is another bike company. So I did pretty good in the bicycle industry in the 90s. Then rolls around to 1999. This is where it kind of got, I was racing for big companies, making some money, making money on the bike parts, and I was in Leger, France or something, and I was at a mountain bike downhill race, and they take the guy who gets first place and like two randoms. So I never won a first place, so I was one of the randoms, and I pissed dirty out there, and so I got suspended for 30 days. And so the next race coming up was in Mount St. Anne, Quebec, and I was on a 30-day suspension. I went back. After 30 days, I pissed dirty again. And then the third time, I had a 6-month suspension, and I think the UCI race was in Park City, Utah or something, and I pissed dirty again, and they said, we're done with you. So this was before the Lance Armstrong shit. This is...
Was it performance-enhancing stuff or just recreational?
All of it. I was at that time, I was like 28 years old, so I'm competing with 18-year-olds that live at their parents' house. So if they break an arm or a leg, not a big deal. But for me, I'm paying my mortgage, all my toys, or whatever else I had. So, it's Dianabol, Winstrol, Stanol, plus street drugs. And it really wasn't a big thing till Lance Armstrong got busted, right? So everyone heard of that.
Yeah, but even like looking into that, like it was one of those things where it was like everyone did it.
So in Europe, okay, so that is correct. Everyone does it. But in Europe, they have masking agents that are better, and it's not as frowned upon as it is in America. Mm-hmm. So in America, first of all, you're not supposed to do it, but you don't have doctors behind you Well, maybe if you're really rich, like Barry Bonds or any of those guys, McGuire or Canseco. But I didn't have that. I'm getting Diana Ball from Mexico, you know, I'm fucking bootlegging shit. So the European, all those guys have doctors with masking agents, and there was a movie on, I think it was
Icarus.
on Icarus.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, the Russian Federation all got banned from the Olympics because of it. So in Europe, they take it a lot more serious. They have doctors to give you masking agents. If I showed you the list, I don't think I have it anymore, but if I showed you the list of prohibited drugs from the United Cyclists International, which is the largest governing body, you'd be amazed. It's like 4 pages of shit, and it's small print. I mean, there's a lot of drugs on there. There's probably like 400 drugs on there that you're not allowed to have. I mean, you can't even take Claritin, you know, and it'll show up in your blood. So, needless to say, no more magazine ads, no more endorsements, no more nothing. That ship was sailed and it was done. That was in 99. So my income was basically on the dark side of the law, basically. And in 99, I'm not sure what the statutes are.
So from 82 essentially till 99, you were kind of living off just the patents, the designing, writing.
I had real jobs. I was a framer, but I think the real money came in the 90s. So probably 94 to 99, I was basically living on the bicycle industry money. And but I had some other illicit interests. So in 99, I moved over half a ton of marijuana. And I don't know what the statutes are, but
You're fine.
I'm 22 years away from that. So I was slinging a lot of bud. So we did well, made good money. But I got to a point in my life where I was going to get raided, and I was looking at about probably 4 years. It was before California even legalized anything.
Yeah.
So it was time to quit all that shit. So January 10th of 2000 is when I was tipped off that they were coming to my house, and I got rid of everything, and that was the last day I did that shit.
How'd you get tipped off, if you can go into it?
I think I sold a couple pounds to a guy who surfed with a guy who was a cop, and the cop was asking him if he knew of me, and they were high school buddies, and he got out of it. Was at County Line, Neptune's Net.
For real?
He got out of the water and he called me immediately and says they're coming to your house. So immediately I got rid of everything. I took a loss on some stuff, but pretty much I got out unscathed. So that was January the 10th of 2000. And then from then, I haven't fucked with none of that shit at all. It's kind of sketchy. I don't want to go to prison. You know, I'd already been in jail, 18, 20 times. I got this little can around here that's got I got some documents from that shit. Lots of it. But I don't want to live that life, so it was time to put it all away. And that was it. Mm-hmm. So then I got clean.
So were you not just like selling it and things like that, but you were using quite a bit?
Of course.
To where you felt like it was a problem at that point?
Well, it wasn't. I didn't think it was a problem. I mean, I'd buy an ounce of blow a week, or actually every Wednesday. And,
shit.
You know, an 8-ball a day is not that much. Is it?
We don't know. I always tell people, like, I don't do cocaine. I won't try it because I have a little bit of money, and I feel like I can have a very small cocaine habit. And I have addictive personality as well. Like,
well, today you don't want to fuck with that shit because people put, you know, everything under the sun in it, you know, and that fentanyl is the real, that'll kill you.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's best to just stay away from that shit.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it was one of those weird things, but yeah, I grew up, you know, in the 90s. My dad, all his friends, like I watched a lot of people that would show up in Corvettes, turn around into like their whole life would go. And I don't know what spiraled it down. Was it just cocaine, or was it cocaine then crack and then this, or what? I don't know. Like, I was too young to understand that, but I do know I was pretty well aware. Every time I would go in the kitchen, I could open up the bottom drawer in the fridge, and there was a pound of weed. And then when I used to go steal quarters out of his room, there was a fucking big ass brick of coke in there every time.
Fuck, lucky you, man.
But I was scared to do it. I played sports. I was, I'm short, and I played basketball, so I was scared to do anything that would like stunt my ability to perform.
So what you were saying earlier about Reagan or Bush and the just say no, we're the same age, and I feel like our generation was we were hit real hard with the try to scare kids off drugs.
Yeah,
like it was the amount of you could call it propaganda, but just the amount of stuff that the schools forced down your neck and afternoon specials and stuff like that. About
weren't they having you guys rat your own parents out and shit?
I think that may even be a little later, but like we had
later.
We had DARE, which was a program where you had to sign up. They try to get you in when you're ninth grade, real naive, and you sign up for voluntary drug tests throughout your high school thing, and then to get out of it, you have to get your parents' approval and all that stuff.
So once you try to get out, you're
so you
already
get into it as a wide-eyed, 15-year-old, and then by the time you're 16, 17, and want to smoke a joint, but not get drug tested at school. But that's the generation we're in. So
that's crazy.
We were part of they really tried to scare, and what he's talking about being scared of cocaine. I know they really like heroin. I'm scared of it, just straight.
Yeah,
scared of it.
Like I said, I've never had a desire to do anything other than like mushrooms and occasionally smoke a little bit of weed. Every once in a while, like I've gotten to that point, like, oh, everybody, what is that like? But I'm also like, I've never tried it. I have no idea what it's like, and I don't have really a desire, so I don't care about trying cocaine.
I like to experiment as a kid, so I think I started smoking pot about 6th grade. And a buddy of mine, I lived in a Hispanic area when I lived with my dad, so it was pretty hardcore. And my buddy's older brothers used to be dealers, so we tried it all. A little bit of PCP, we tried some blow, we tried some mushrooms. Acid. It was like normal. Like I remember smoking freebase cocaine before it became crack. So I learned how to cook it, and then I turned on my buddies how to cook it. Unfortunately, they all went to prison. But I got lucky. I'm lucky to be alive. I'm lucky to be able to tell my story to kids that may be heading down that path because I've experienced it. I'm just not some guy who's just saying, hey, don't do this. Yeah. I'm a guy that can say, don't do this because, and this is what happened. And my stories, there's been some good times. There's been a lot of bad times too. And there's a lot of consequences.
What about alcohol? Was that ever a big problem with you growing up?
Not really. I wasn't really a drinker, but I know that if I wanted to have a beer or two, I was going to go try to find an ounce of blow first because I knew that I would drink a couple beers and want to do a line. And I don't want to be that guy at 4 a.m. who doesn't have any and he's jonesing to find some. So I'm going to make sure I'm stocked up for a few days. And then I'm just MIA, But that's who I was. And I was a hope to die dope fiend. I didn't really care really what kind of drugs it was. As long as I had it. I just needed a mind change, and maybe it was because of my upbringing, maybe because my dad was an alcoholic, but I never wanted to be where I was at, really. I just wanted to escape, and that was my escape. And until I became a man and an adult and learned to face problems head on, that was my escape mechanism, broken family syndrome kind of shit.
So was it the BMX and that stuff that kind of turned you onto motorcycles or in that world, or what was that transition into the motorcycle stuff?
So it's a 2-wheel thing, obviously. So I understood the balance of a bike, and I liked riding. And so when I got clean, I bought a Harley. I had 30 days clean, and I said, I'm going to buy a Harley because I know if I get loaded, I'm going to lose this bike. And I'll end up under a bridge or whatever the case may be. I still got that same bike today. It's in my garage.
Nice.
22 years later. You see a lot of the kids coming in today and, buying Harleys and wanting to ride. And I'm enthusiastic about the youth riding bikes. I just wish they understood the history of the bikes and the culture before them. Not just because you have high socks and baggy shorts and a buttoned up Dixon shirt. There's more to it than that. There's the camaraderie amongst men, where you help somebody out if they're broken down on the side of the road, or if they need some parts. And the FXR world, and I'm sure it's the same in every little genre.
It's the FXR thing was that what you're saying is exactly what I experienced. And after being in motorcycles for going on 15 years, I hadn't really experienced that until I got to the FXR community.
You could be right. I mean, I've had some street bikes at a younger age. I've had a lot of motocross bikes, dirt bikes and stuff. I've crashed every single one of them. But the FXR community, it's, first of all, you can't go buy one in a store. So it's not the newbie people. You have to have been turned on to them from somebody.
Yeah.
And even though I've had mine for a lot of years, it hasn't been up until about 5 to 7 years ago I started meeting other people with that model of motorcycle. And I will tell you from experience, the guys that I've met have been genuine. Mm-hmm. They give you the shirt off their back if you need some parts. And I'm sure it's the same with the old guys, the knuckleheads and the panhead guys that came before me. But I don't see that with the new culture of bikers today.
Well, give us some time. we're still got payments on our bikes right now. wait till the notes are paid off and the titles are in hand. And,
I think it's there, man. I've had so much stuff handed to me, given to me. Like,
he's on a bike right now that was
like I'm borrowing a bike on this 5,000 plus mile trip. Like I've had more love, and vice versa. I've tried to give it back. I've given stuff away. I've charged pennies on the dollar for stuff just to. I can't give it to you. Give me $20, that kind of stuff. But it is there. It may not look like it, but I've experienced it firsthand.
Yeah. That's honorable.
What you were just saying about the camaraderie of men when I was stepped away, it was ding, like because it's still going strong.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and I'll give you just an example. I got a friend who wasn't previously a friend, but I was in my old hometown of Ventura, and a guy broke down on the side of the freeway. And he happens to ride an FXR, but I don't know if he was on that or on his Dyna. But I pulled over, and I'm in a car at this point. I pulled over, and I asked him if he needed any help, and he wanted to push the bike off to the side of the freeway. So I got out and helped the guy, right? Turns out now we're pretty close friends. There's a guy named Charles who's he's a member in the Central Coast area of a club, but a super great guy. But if I didn't stop and share the love, I would never know the guy.
Yeah.
And now I've seen him a couple times at different events, and FXR Jam, he's made it out there. Just a solid dude. And that's part of not only just being a man and helping mankind, but in my little genre of the motorcycle culture that I ride in, it's a given that that's what you do. That's just how you treat people. Because if you were busted down on the side of the road, you would hope somebody would come help you out, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I met Joe Kidd. He helped me out. I was at the entrance of Born Free, and he saw my bike, and he goes, I've talked to him online before. Let me go help him out. And he helped me. We changed we did some deep clutch work on the side of the road with the handy tool.
Fucking Joe is legit, man. Straight up. I know that he just went on a ride with a couple of gentlemen, a 7,000-mile ride around the United States, and it seemed like every other day they're posting and they were wrenching on something. One of them bikes was down, but he's a handy dude. He knows that shit inside and out, and if I was going to go on a ride, I'd love to have somebody like him with me.
Yeah, he's going to make it there one way or another on that bike.
He's fucking determined.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, like you said, you bought your first bike, what, in 2000? Is that what you said?
Yeah, January 11th of 2000. I bought it from a guy named Scully, who owned a motorcycle shop called County Line Cycles, and then he ended up selling it, and he moved to Texas, to Dallas, and he went to go work with Rick Fairless.
I know Scully.
That's where that FXR came from. Yeah.
Seriously? And he was working at Rick Fairless's whenever I got into the industry in 2004, he was the main mechanic there.
Yeah.
And he was building all the bikes for Rick that was on like the TV shows and shit back in the day.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's wild.
He's a good dude, and it had a built 80 in it. It was a hot rod little bike, and part of the deal, I got into a group of men. It was a clean and sober motorcycle club, and you had to get a year clean to get a patch. And so I wanted to get a bike, and I wanted to be a part of that because I wanted some accountability. I wanted people around me that had their shit together, and someone that I could be accountable to so that I could stay clean.
Yeah.
Because that first, 30 days, that first 6 months, that first year, it's a motherfucker. And so I got in that club, and I was in that club for I think 7 or 8 years. And I left the mother chapter, and I started my own chapter in Ventura. And then I also started another chapter in Santa Maria. And they're still going strong today. I walked away from the club at the time that when I came in, there was only like 25 guys. Now they're like 125 strong. They got about 6 or 8 chapters, but those guys saved my life.
Nice.
And if it wasn't for that camaraderie of dudes that enjoy the same shit, they didn't have all FXRs or nothing like that, but they enjoyed riding, and they were all men. They weren't punk kids or anything, and they were all clean, and I looked up to them because I didn't want to live the life I was living anymore. I was kind of hopeless, and I had already lost my bicycling career, and any kind of money that was coming with that was gone. And so to me, that was like a savior. That really helped me out.
No, that's rad. I mean, a lot of us that ride together, not that we have the scarcity or the fear of like maybe addiction on the back end of it, but we all found each other because we were looking for that same inspiration and accountability within each other. Someone that, we always talk about our bike night, which it's not a big bike night, but it's a bike night full of people that show the fuck up.
Right.
Every Tuesday we know that somebody's going to be there from our group, and that accountability makes us hold ourselves more accountable to be there for them. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's a family, it's a brotherhood. And it's good to see your buddies, and it's good to go on
even
rides.
though we kind of we push the addiction worse. Hey,
but that's okay.
You're not ready to go yet. Drink another one, dude. Let's go.
You're not living under a bridge.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys are all right. You're riding $40,000 motorcycles. You're not hurting that bad.
Yeah.
So that to me was the reason I kept that motorcycle.
Yeah.
I still have it today. And those group of men, I still am in contact with a handful of those guys today. I have a retired patch from that club downstairs in the garage, and I could wear it anywhere I want. If I want to, I just choose not to wear it. It's just a sacred time in my life that I needed at that point in time.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, from my understanding, like that opportunity or that time of your life kind of opened up other doors as well.
it did. So that clean and sober motorcycle club, it was in LA, the main chapter, the mother chapter. And I had a member in my chapter who was a prospect trying to get a year clean, and he just couldn't get a year clean. So he just kept coming around. It just kept coming around. You needed a year clean to get that back patch. And he would get like 8 or 9 months and get loaded, and then come back and get like 3 or 4 months and get loaded. Well, he's a very dear friend of mine, and he was married to Peg Bundy. He was married to Katie Seagal. And they got a divorce, and so I had spent a lot of time at their house. So that relationship with Katie started with my friend Jack. And so that's kind of where the TV shit kind of came into play.
Did it all start there? Because, I mean, you had so many different things you were a part of.
Well, so the TV stuff didn't start, I don't even remember when that came out. It had to be about 2010, I'm assuming. About 12 years ago, I think.
When the original
2008
SOA stuff came out?
I think
I thought it was
about that.
08. Yeah.
So that's when it was. So I'd already been clean for, a number of years. And I left that club, and I left that sober club because I thought I wanted to go to a different club.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, SOA aired from 2008 to 2014.
yeah, it was a long time. So I had a couple brothers that had retired out of the sober club, and I retired out. And Jack's ex-wife, Katie, called one of my good friends, Jim, who's since passed away, and said, hey, I'm doing this television show, and we're looking for motorcycle riders. And I think the reason she called Jim is because he was clean and he was reliable. Like, the guy would show up. If he said he's going to show up, he's going to show up. So Jim contacted me and said, hey, Katie called, said she's looking for some motorcycle guys, and everybody that they have sent from the casting companies looks like Santa Claus on a bagger. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so that's one type of biker. But we're looking for younger guys that happen to ride, a different kind of bike, not like a bagger, more of like a Dyna
Yeah.
with a fairing and that kind of stuff. So that look. So it turns out that when they started filming the pilot, they had purchased 3 bikes, and all 3 of them came from Santa Barbara Harley. They were trade-ins. Happens that 2 of those trade-ins came in from one club out in Ventura, and one of the trade-ins came from a different club in Ventura. They were both the same look. Dyna, little Arlen S fairing. So that's the bikes they were shooting for the pilot. And he asked me, do you know anybody who's got a bike that looks like this? Well, I lived in Ventura, and believe it or not, that look started in Ventura. Mm-hmm. They call it the Fix Way kit or club style, right? So that Arlen S fairing shit started on Fix Way, which is a street in Ventura that had a clubhouse for a particular club there that was known for having bikes that look that way. The original T-Sport handlebars, or the T-bars, those were started by that same club back in the late 60s, early 70s by a guy named Dougie Poo, who was also a very dear friend. He was the president of the Purdue chapter of that particular club. Mm-hmm. And there's a picture of him going over the grapevine back in the 60s, or maybe the 70s, and he has a mirror on his T-bars, and the mirror's looking straight at his face. He was pretty into himself, but he was a good dude. So you can Google that.
You should have told him that. He's going to have a mirror on his Road Glide tomorrow.
Yeah, so those T-bars come from
Yeah.
the biggest, baddest club on the planet,
Yeah.
in my opinion. And anybody who questions that, well, fuck it, I don't care. So those bikes with the little Arlen S fairings also started in Ventura from the red and white. And so when I was told, can you get any guys like that? I said, well, shit, my whole town is full of bikes like that. First of all, everybody in Ventura that rode back in those days, 2008, wore a full-face helmet. All the bikes are blacked out. There's no logos, unless, of course, you're a club member and you have some artwork on your tank. All the bikes look the same. All black, no Harley logos, black full-face helmet. You can't tell anybody apart. And that's part of the deal. So if you're getting chased by the cops, they don't really know who you are, right? Mm-hmm. No face, no case kind of deal. So I went to a buddy's shop, a gentleman named Tron, who owns Elliott's Performance, and he had a shop on Seaward, which is a pretty main area out there. And I said, have everybody come out. And everybody, so about 60 guys showed up, all on Dynas and FXRs with fairings, or just T-bars without fairings. I took a Polaroid picture of every one of them, built a book with everyone's name, their phone numbers, their shoe sizes, pant sizes, vest size, and I created a book of like 60 people.
Did they hear the cops, like the feds?
No, they knew what it was. Yeah. They knew I was.
The dudes all knew it was for a show, like a casting.
Yeah, it was for a show, like a casting.
And they were all excited, like,
sure.
Yeah.
Because they were going to get money to ride their motorcycle. Now, who wouldn't want to get paid to ride your motorcycle?
Yeah.
It's the greatest job in the world. And not only that, for me, I got 10% of everybody's pay for bringing them. So for me, if I bring 25 guys and they're making $350 a day, I'm getting $35 on 25 guys. That's an extra $700-800 in my pocket on top of my pay. So I was doing good.
And since it was before the show started, nobody really knew what it was about,
No
or
one
no idea
really
on
knew.
the cultural phenomenon it would be, or anything like that.
You know, I'm still kind of shocked on how big it got. You know, it started off as just a little pilot. It got picked up, and then it got picked up for season 2, and then season 3, and it just kept on going. And if you know the story of Macbeth and Hamlet and all that stuff, that was the arc that Kurt had created on what he wanted the storyline. But he started to have to fill in episodes just to get the show to run longer, because you run out of storyline after a while. So Charlie started off as just a biker, Jax, I guess you would call him. And then by like season 7, he was like a serial killer. I mean, they were killing 40 guys in an episode. But that's TV. That's not...
Yeah.
Everybody knows that that's not how real... Anybody who's in the know knows that that's not real club life.
Yeah.
Sure, there's a couple instances here and there, but if you ask somebody off the street, what do you think of X or Y or Z motorcycle club? Their only knowledge is gonna be what the media has told you, or what the feds have told the media to tell you, or what you've seen on TV. Mm-hmm. It's make believe. It's so people have such a skewed bit of information of what a real motorcycle club is about.
Yeah.
Everyone does crime. I don't give a shit if you're. I don't care if you're a cop. I don't care if you're a lawyer, a car salesman, a welder, a guy that rides a motorcycle. Crime is life. Everyone does crime, but the motorcycle clubs get a bad rap.
Yeah.
They really do.
So in those first couple, that beginning time, had you already started doing some things in other? Had you done any work yet in like the Hollywood shit or what?
Yeah, I did in 86 and 87. I did a couple movies. So I was a kid. I was like 19 or 20. And at that time, I think I had got my first DUI, and I think my mom had to drive me to the set because I didn't have a driver's license. But there was a lot of weird shit going on in Hollywood, and for me, I didn't vibe with it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the people. There was a lot of, I don't know how to put it, but there's a lot of gays in the community, and it wasn't for me. I felt offended by it, and I'm not one of those guys. Oh, I'm offended. I just felt uneasy about it.
Yeah.
Not enough to speak up about it. I just went, this isn't my bag. This isn't for me. Mm-hmm. So I left it altogether for 10 or 12, 15 years. But then when this opportunity came back, I thought, I'll give it another shot. And it opened a lot of doors. But those 7 years were actually a lot of fun. Getting paid to ride your motorcycle with a group of your buddies who are also getting paid, getting free food. What is there not to love about that?
Yeah. It's fucking rad.
A lot of people talk shit about it.
Nah.
I don't care. They wouldn't have talked shit if they didn't watch it. So a lot of people watch it. They can talk shit. It's TV. It's make believe.
Well, I think what people talk shit about, they talk shit about the fact that it's tribalism, right? Some people were fortunate enough to find motorcycles before Sons of Anarchy. They found it through natural causes, by going and being exposed to it by a bike night, or a part of town you grew up in, or an uncle or dad, or it's part of your family, right? Some people literally had no fucking clue. They had no other direction towards motorcycles. That TV show comes on, and maybe I guarantee the people that got into motorcycles and that weren't thinking like, I want to go fucking kill a lot of people. Like, no, like that is like it's no different than Top Gun and making people want to go in the fucking be Air Force pilots and shit like that. It's inspiring.
Well, I think it opened a lot of people's eyes to, like what you're saying about the original casting call, that the bike, quote unquote biker, is not the fat dude on the bagger that just looks like Santa Claus. That all of a sudden there's guys that are my age, they look like guys I am or I want to hang out with. And the camaraderie thing. That's what I think opened up a lot of people's eyes. And there's kids that bought off into it whole hog a little too much.
I mean, there's some people that probably, obviously there's the XXXXX land. He started by making fun of all the people that would wear Sons of Anarchy vests in public.
The Thuper fans.
Yeah, which I get it. Like there's always going to have that. But, I mean, down here to the nitty-gritty of the situation, I mean, that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to the motorcycle industry. Because it revitalized a lot of things. It revitalized the youth in motorcycles. Whether or not it was a direct, like every kid that was 18 years old or 20 years old that saw that show, whether it was them that got influenced, I guarantee it was somebody that they got influenced by, and then it passed down to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, they sold a lot of Dynas, a lot of them, and a lot of people don't know that show had a lot of FXRs in it, but a lot of people, maybe you didn't see them, or maybe some people were uneducated to not know that what an FXR is.
Yeah.
So they see the club style bike, and that all originated with the FXR. That is the first. I mean, sure, there was the knuckleheads and there was the panheads, but that was the first high performance elusive bike that there was, really, where guys, like, you look at those guys in Frisco and they have those things jacked up so they can hop curbs and elude, and a lot of the club bikes, they need to handle. If you're going to be running and eluding, the bike's got to handle. You can't ride a big fat boy and think that you're going to be able to escape anything. So that FXR bike was in there. I know for a fact there was at least 5 on a daily on that set, whether it was in riding scenes or it was in the parking lot scenes. You just don't notice it because the main characters weren't riding them.
Yeah.
They all had something else.
Like that original garage, what was it, Teller Moro or something like that?
Moro.
That was over there in like the valley by you guys, or what?
No, it was in Sherman Oaks.
Sherman Oaks, that's right.
Yeah.
So that was a real place and not a set?
No, that was a set. So what that was, that whole building was a soundstage. I don't know who owns it, but Fox leased the soundstage. And then the clubhouse that you see, that also was another building, but what they did in there is they built all the props. So inside the soundstage, if you walked in there, it was all kinds of different rooms with cameras. So they shot all the interior scenes. There's a hospital in there. The police station was in there. It's just a
bedroom in the clubhouse.
Everything.
Yeah.
There's like 40 built rooms, and the one that had the big Sons of Anarchy marquee on the top of it, that building that they called their clubhouse, inside was where they built all the props. So they were building walls, painting walls and doing all that, and then they would just truck it right across the parking lot. And so that Teller Moral Auto was just an offshoot of the side of that building, and we've been there many times after it closed down. It stayed like that for a long time, and then right around the corner was all the exterior and interior shots for when they went over to Ireland.
Oh yeah.
So remember they went over there to Belfast or somewhere over there. Yeah. So there was a whole nother set for that. And there was some stuff that was shot on scene out in the Santa Clarita area, Fillmore area. They even shot stuff in downtown out by Pasadena or just off. They shot all around. They shot at the harbors. So depending on what day it was and what scene it was, they would be at different locations. And you'd get your call sheet and you would know where you had to go. I have to meet these guys in Long Beach at the harbor, or I have to be at the set, or I have to be, somewhere.
It's funny because you were talking about the time. Dude, it's 9:15 right now. And look at this sun out there. It's fucking wild.
It's like 6:30 in Dallas.
Yeah.
So
It's nice.
Go
ahead.
So speaking of the Ireland thing, that was one of your few times actually action on screen, right? When the barn blows up and there's Jax looks up and he sees you, but then it turns into Clay.
Right.
How many times? Because I know you're in the pictures. You're in the original 9. You're in the one with Katie. Where it transitions from season to season. Jax and Tara.
Right.
But the Ireland, that scene from this Ireland season, I think 3 was the one. It was one of the. How many times were you?
You got a great memory.
I told you he's a super fan.
I would tell you.
super fan, dude.
I
I
would
told
tell you probably 6 to 8 times. Now, did they all make it to the show? No. I think 2 or 3 made it to the show.
Because there's the one after Donna's funeral, right? Aren't you in the background of that?
The ghost of John Teller.
Yeah, people that threw everybody off.
So this is how it worked out. So the first season goes by, and I think they had just killed off. Was it the end of the first season? They just killed off the cop.
Hale.
That was second
That's
season.
it. Second season.
Okay, so I think that's
No.
when it happened.
Was it second season? Because he was banging that one chick. We're fucking fans, dude.
Okay. I think you're right because into the second season is when the kid gets stolen and it leads into season
Right.
3. in
Okay, so the
Ireland,
end of season 1, Taylor Sheridan, who
Yeah.
plays the cop, gets killed.
Yeah.
And that night,
Deputy Hale, the guy that's
Yeah.
going to take over for Unser.
correct. That night, Kurt called me over, and Kurt's a larger than life character. Some people love him, some people hate him. The guy's brilliant. Period. I mean, he worked on the Shield for years, and then he did Sons, and he's done some other stuff. He's a brilliant guy, but he's kind of abrasive. So he asked the PA, the production assistant, go find Vic. And so I went over there and talked to him. I didn't know if he was going to fire me or what the program was. Did he catch me? Because I kind of had a relationship with a couple of the people that worked there on the set, the clothing wardrobe chick and some other chicks, and I was having a good time.
You're
But
being a biker.
I was just being me. And he said, hey, look, I need someone to be Jax's dad, and I want you to be the part. However, you're dead, and we can't see you anymore in any of the scenes. So at the beginning, I was more in the background, and I was riding the bikes. So I'd get stump pay when I rode the bikes, or how that works is the actor gets on the bike, the hero actor, whoever it is, whether it be Tommy Flanagan, whether it be Charlie Hunnam, whether it be Kim Coates, whoever. They get on the bike, they strap their helmet on, they start the bike and rev the motor and, ready to go, and they're shooting that from the front. And then they cut it, and then they turn around and shoot it from the back as the actor rides away. But it was never the actor. Because when that show started, the only person who even knew how to ride a motorcycle was Mark Boone Jr., who plays Bobby Elvis. Mm-hmm. None of them knew how to ride a motorcycle. So Ron Perlman, that guy fell over more times in the parking lot.
He was the worst.
He fell over all the time. He'd start the bike in gear, or he'd let the clutch out too fast, and the next thing you know, he's on the ground. William Lucking, the guy that played Piney, they had to give him a trike because he hated motorcycles. Charlie ended up getting better on a bike. I think Harley gave him one. Or actually, it wasn't Harley. I know that DL worked a deal with one of the motorcycle shops in the Bay Area where they gave the crew or the cast bikes for a year or two or whatever. They were basically leased bikes, but the guys didn't have to pay for them. And then at the end, after 2 years, they had to give the bike back, or they could buy it out at a very, very, very reduced rate. So what happened is when they brought the bikes back, they would have, whoever had that bike for 2 years would autograph it. They'd take a bunch of pictures and they sell it for double or triple what the value of the bike is. But really, none of them knew how to ride. So that was my job. My job was a background rider for the Sons, sometimes it was a background rider, sometimes it was the primary rider of that actor, but you're seeing the back of me.
Yeah.
So I did it a lot for Tommy Flanagan because at the time Tommy was having a rough one. He was always on a bender, and he was kind of inconsistent. Some days he could walk and sometimes he couldn't. If he fucking mumbles, so you can't tell if he's drunk or not, but he was having rough ones during that time. So that's what happened, and I became John Teller. So I'm more pictures from then on, but I still rode on the show for another 6 years, and I still got the casting money for bringing all the guys, but I couldn't be in any more scenes like that. The funeral, there's a couple more. I couldn't. There was one outside of the downtown Charming where the SOA guys and the Mayan guys were across.
Yeah.
Zobel. That's a good one.
Yeah, there was a few of those. So, God, you have a way better memory than me.
I told you I've
don't
seen it a
remember any
bunch of
that.
times, dude. I've seen it a bunch.
So I was grateful because that goes down in history as a member. So you not only get credits for it, but you get paid additional money for it. So that opened a lot of doors too for a lot of other different television shows. It wasn't just that show. I mean, I probably worked on 15 different shows because of that. That kind of opened a lot of doors. And I'm still getting requests to work on shows, but now that I don't live in California, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fly or drive down there to go to a casting call. Look, if they want me and they're willing to pay the money, I'll go do the work, but I'm not going to go down there and audition with 15 other dudes that look just like me. It's not worth my time.
Yeah.
So,
Did you do any of that? I don't think you did, but did you do the voiceover for the John Teller as he's the narration kind?
So that's Nicholas Guest.
That's what I thought.
But you'd never see Nicholas Guest. And if you looked at a picture of Nicholas Guest, he's probably never been on a motorcycle in his life. He's a completely different guy.
Great voice, though.
He does the job. So I'm just grateful that I got to be a piece of that.
So how much of this show, like, as you brought in kind of the younger blood of motorcycles and the vision, and helped kind of, did they have that vision, or did they want this, or were they just like blindly shooting for something else when they were looking for, the casting agents were bringing in these older stereotypical bikers for what the masses have, and SoCal had this younger generation, or this younger vibe, this more, I guess the club style vibe.
The tennis shoe crew.
The tennis shoe crew.
That's a That's another Ventura thing. That was their name. But they had a creative consultant who was an actual member in Oakland.
Okay.
So, he helped steer them in the right direction.
Is he the one that helped put Charlie into the spots to be kind of influenced by the clubs and things like that?
Yeah, Charlie went and stayed a month with him up there in Oakland, and I got a lot of respect for him. Although we don't talk anymore because of some differences, he's still a good dude, and I got respect for him anyway. I don't think he's any longer with the club, but he was a big part in keeping some sort of reality to what they were shooting and portraying.
Yeah.
But also you have to remember there was 50 other true club members in the show. So it wasn't all Hollywood. There was like real patched club.
I mean, later on in there, you had
there.
Zito in there. You had Coons in there.
Chuck, Rusty's phenomenal. Just the greatest guy you ever met. And it helped start some of their careers. I mean, Chuck, he's a legend. He's already been in so many things.
In a lot of shit.
And how he got there, that's a whole different story with him and Kurt. But there was a lot more members than that. And just because they didn't get a speaking role or become a bigger part of it, they were on site. So the writers couldn't get too far out there because they knew that these guys were there kind of overseeing or being a part of. They're not going to do some shit that's way far out that's not even close,
These guys would throw a flag on and go,
they're trying to keep some sort of reality to it. And I respect that. Kurt had some kind of connection with the club, and I think it was Chuck and Art Linson, who are the executive producers of that show. They were connected as well. So, he did the best he could with the knowledge he had. He's not a biker. Kurt didn't grow up a biker. But he learned the culture, and he investigated the culture enough to where he tried to legitimize the storylines to keep it somewhat. It is TV. You watch any other TV show, you watch CSI Miami. Okay, perfect example. Who's the guy with the tick? That guy, he kills somebody every episode, and he comes back. He's not out on leave. He's not, under investigation. Every episode he's killing somebody. So that's TV, and that's just how it is.
I remember arguing this. I was in a bike shop. I used to work in a bike shop called Other Side Customs in Dallas, And ironically, this is the dude that I worked with him while this show was out, and he came back. I remember it, talking to you right now. I remember clear as day when he came back to the shop, and I found out about the show for the first time. And he was, he's born in Dallas. He's more or less my mentor in the paint world, but he was a big red and white fan, right? Never knew anybody from the thing, still doesn't to my knowledge, but just loved the culture. He read all the books, he bought all the shit he could find, and he used to fucking wear the t-shirts all over town all the time and got checked a lot. You know what I mean?
It happens.
But as we found out, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember him coming in one day, and at this time, this is probably 10, 11, 12-ish, right around there. He's like, man, this show's fucking badass, man. They're all running around on FXRs and things like that. And mind you, he didn't ride an FXR, and this is my connection. In 2010, I'd been working on him for 6 years. FXR's never been a part of our lives, right? I never knew shit about them, right? We were painting all the popular bikes. Like I was telling you earlier, Performance Baggers is the popular bike. That's where the money's at.
Sure.
I'm in the business to make money. I'm not in the business to fucking be a loser. You know what I'm saying? Not take that with a grain of salt. I'm not talking shit about anybody else. But choppers in the mid 2000s was where the money was, and then it turned into baggers, and then big wheel baggers, and then go down the path, right? But he talked about that. I'd been around this Harley culture in Dallas, clubs, the industry of motorcycles for the last almost 7-8 years at now. This show was like, fuck, like that's what it's like actually just riding them. You know what I mean? Not just riding them to the shows and to the fucking events and try to sell things. That kind of got me on the path of wanting to be more in the culture of motorcycles and not in the culture of marketing motorcycles. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of different subgenres of the motorcycle community.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And everyone is comfortable in whatever genre they're at, or they wouldn't be there. Right? And it's the same for the bagger guys or the big wheel bagger guys or the performance bagger guys. That's their home. That's where they get in where you fit in, right?
Yeah.
For me, way before the show started, this was my little clique, the FXR little community, because it was very rare to me because I saw a lot of Dynas coming up, and to me, I felt like it was my niche. It's a unique bike, and I was comfortable with it. But I don't hate on anybody because they ride a Hayabusa or enduro bike, a CR 500 that's street legal, or I don't give a shit what you ride as long as you're enjoying what you do.
Yeah,
that's it. So the TV end of it, it's fantasy, right? Take it how you take it. A lot of people hated it. A lot of people knocked it. But
it was cool to hate it, and it was cool to knock it because, like I said,
that's okay.
But I tell you what, in 2013, I remember bike night. We're talking 400 or 500 people at a bar, right? And we used to do them on Thursdays. Guess what came out on Thursdays?
Oh shit! Really?
So we would do these bike nights, and of course, I think I had a little bit of a hand in this bike night, but not much. But I think I was still helping. But it was 300-400 people at this bike night. And then Sons would come on, and the whole fucking place would start watching this show at bike night, ordering drinks. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it was, we're talking now, it's 2022, right? We're very hindsight on this shit, right? But when it was coming out every week, there was no other motorcycle cultural thing going on TV wise. I mean, the last two shows we got, or two movies we got out, were Torque and Biker Boys. And Biker Boys was a look into a club culture more on the minority set of bike clubs, right? And then you got like Stone Cold, you got fucking Beyond the Law or Above the Law, which I don't remember which one, the Charlie Sheen one. And then those things like that back in the day, like we've had this conversation so much about what is entertaining for people to watch about motorcycles.
Well, you left out Wild Hogs.
Wild Hogs is pretty fucking good, dude.
That one's, at the top there.
And R.I.P. Ray Liotta.
Well, I'll tell you, every guy was jealous of Charlie, and every woman loved him.
Yeah.
Period. And there's nobody, because I am John Teller. So when I walk around and people find out, they just puddle over Charlie.
Yeah.
It's funny, and I get a kid, and I'll call him every once in a while and just chat with them, just check in with them. But you know what? I'm glad it made an impact on some people. Maybe they got to see a little bit of a glimpse of that world, because there really isn't any shows. It's not like The Devil's Ride. It's not.
Oh, that show was horrible when it came out.
Yeah, but all I got to say about it is I don't give a shit if people hate. I got paid to do that shit for 7 years. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Now there's the Mayans. So it's a whole nother thing. And I have friends on that show. It's not my culture. It's not what I'm into. But you know what? Those guys are getting paid. They're on TV. Emilio Rivera, he's probably one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. He's getting paid. Mm-hmm. And really what it boils down to, when you're an actor, you got to fit into whatever movie you're in, as long as you're getting paid, fuck, I can't say I would do anything, but, to do something that I loved, to ride a motorcycle with my friends and get paid, it was a good experience.
That's wild. I'm just imagining me and my buddies right now, like, they're filming us from the back. We're like side-eyeing each other, like, dude, we're getting fucking paid for this.
Well, not only that, I got to bring my buddies.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you want to go work tomorrow? I'm going to get you $350.
Did you ever reach over and turn their bikes off?
No. So on set, there's a lot of horseplay and shit, when they're not rolling tape. But when they roll that tape, it's some ungodly number. It's like thousands of dollars for every 10 seconds that tape's rolling. Mm-hmm. It's fucking stupid money. I don't know. What I know is that when Sons started, the budget was $500,000 an episode. Now it might seem like a lot of money, $500,000 for one episode that's on TV for 43 minutes out of an hour. Mm-hmm. But that's a peanuts budget compared to CSI. CSI was like $2.5 million an episode. So you have to understand there's a lot of people getting paid off of that $500,000. You got wardrobe, you got catering, you got props, you got the guys that build the sets, you got lighting guys, you got sound guys, you got editing guys, then you got the actors, and there's a shit ton of people involved in it. So when Sons started, it had a shitty budget, but as it progressed, the first Sons episodes had commercials like Hair Club for Men and maybe some shitty video game. Towards the end, it was like Mercedes-Benz, Jack Daniels. It was like the heavies. Yeah. The budget went way up.
UFC, I don't know if they were in it, but I just remember how the whole, it was kind of like, it was wild because at the same time, Walking Dead was probably at its peak. And it was like this wild thing where you had these shows that were about just not being a part of society. And I mean, if you think about it, being in a bike club in the Sons of Anarchy universe is living a different path of life. And it was inspiring.
True Blood was another one of those that was pretty high right then.
Yeah.
That vampire one, that was moving.
That was the HBO one, right?
I'm not sure. I worked on it. I don't remember who did it.
I swore it was HBO because I think there's some boobs in that one.
Sons, that's one thing about Sons. So it's a cable. So there's two situations. If it's a network show, that's the big channels, 2, 4, HBO. 7. Those network shows, you get 26 episodes a season, but you can't cuss and you can't show any boobs or anything like that. If you're on cable, you only get 13 episodes a season, but you can do all those things. I don't know who figured that all out and stuff.
I just feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just a man, but I just feel like when you see a nice little boob or two in a TV show, I can't tell you that I love Game of Thrones so much because of the storyline, or just every once in a while.
I've never watched it. Is there boobs in there?
Tons of boobs.
Oh,
Until
man.
they got a little woke in a couple seasons at the end.
The only
First season
show,
of True Detective also has a great set of boobs.
my favorite show for boobs has got to be Californication with David Duchovny.
I've heard about it, heard nothing but good stuff. I've been
Oh.
tough numerous times I'd love it.
It's
It's just
fucking
one of those
money.
things I've never gotten to.
It's money. It's really good. So one of the things that happened with the TV industry is that the movies used to be all in the Screen Actors Guild. So you had to be a union member in the Screen Actors Guild to do a movie. And then there's AFTRA, which is American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. So there's two different unions. So if I was working on a movie, I had to be a union member in SAG. And if I was working on a TV show, I had to be a union member in AFTRA. Now, to become a member in the union, it's a lot of work, especially SAG. You have to work on X amount of shows. You have to get these golden tickets, which either you got to be a stunt guy or get a speaking line or something has to happen. I got into the Screen Actors Guild years ago, and it's a totally different membership, and you have to pay to be in the union. I don't know what it cost back then. It was like $1,600 or something just to get into the union. First, you have to do a couple shows, then you have to be invited into the union, then you got to pay the money. I think it went up since then. I think it was like $3 or $4 grand. And then there's AFTRA, which if you work on a television show for over 30 days, you have to sign up for AFTRA. It's a different union. So I had both union cards because I was working on movies and I was working on TV shows. Well, they had a merger. And I'm not a fan of the unions in general, any union, but maybe they needed them in the 50s and 60s or whatever, but I don't believe in them now. So when they merged the two, I think you see a lot more cable, you see a lot more internet movies, you see a lot more Hulu, Netflix has their own movies. I think there's a huge decline in the quality of entertainment that's on TV. Now, there's a lot more wider variety of entertainment, but the quality of it, the writers, the good stuff is gone. Now there's reality TV shows because they don't pay those guys shit, and there's all kinds of crazy. Back in the old days, there was storylines. There was, reasoning behind that. Maybe at the end of the show, it had some big epiphany you got,
Yeah.
Now it's just they just flood the media with so much crap.
I feel like most shows nowadays are high anxiety shows. Like they're all about like making you like, oh, what the fuck's gonna happen? You know what I mean? And I don't like that shit. But I do agree with you on that. And I've been going down some YouTube rabbit holes in regards to the Netflix stuff, because that's on a big decline in TV show. From what I'm understanding through what I've seen on net or on YouTube about it, is that their motto of put the whole season out is starting to catch up with them, where more and more people are consuming entertainment through streaming apps instead of like now that after 2 years of people not going to the movies and movies reopening, they're still having a hard time putting people in theaters. More people are sticking to Netflix and these different streaming platforms like Paramount and things like that. And while Netflix does have a good stack of content, it doesn't compare to the content that Paramount has over the course of almost 100 years now.
Right.
And so he turned me onto the show The Offer, which is a show that's about
It's about the making of the movie The Godfather.
so
Fantastic.
fucking good, dude. It's
Interesting.
fucking amazing. It makes me want to go watch The Godfather, and I did actually.
Huh.
It was so awesome.
So I think Paramount also is doing Taylor Sheridan stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they got old content.
They've got the
years and
1883
years,
for sure.
and then they got the new content.
Yeah.
So that's
And well, he touched on something as far as, and I want to know what you think about it. In as far as he said Netflix releasing the whole season. Do you think that has anything to do with the quality of the fact that you can binge through stuff now, as opposed to the way it's always been done, where it's one episode a week,
And the
then
anticipation.
and you've got the water cooler talk, whether it's with your
Right.
spouse or your buddies or your friends at work.
Yeah, I think it burns out that series or whatever that show is. It burns it out quick. It's like a really bright flash in the pan, and then it's over. Instead of something that draws out
exactly
for a longer period of time,
over a set amount of weeks, and it's still being
Right.
talked about each week. And yeah, I'm not a fan of. I liked it at first, the releasing everything at once, but no, I like it. Like The Offer, what he was just talking about. That's one Paramount's been doing. And man, I think we had 2 episodes to go, maybe 3, when the trip kicked off. At the 1st of June. So
Right.
I can't wait to. I prefer not to take stuff on my phone. I just watch it at home when I can. So
I think it's good for a show that's been run already, that's done its seasons.
yeah, The
So
Office
for
and
catch up,
Netflix. Yeah, Sons.
But for a new production, it doesn't seem like you would get enough money and sponsorship, like commercials and stuff, because it's all there in one shot. So how does an advertiser know if it's going to be a hit or a miss and throw all their money in that?
Yeah.
You're not going to get Mercedes-Benz to kick down $1 million an episode for advertising when they're going to throw 12 episodes together immediately. What if it's a flop?
yeah.
$1 million is down the drain. So
Or what if it's fantastic? You left that money on the table.
there's not much shit out there that's fantastic anymore. I
Yeah.
mean, I think the shock value is wearing off in society because it's always the shock. It's always the news. They always just try to shock. Everyone just tries to shock everyone.
Yeah, I think we're it's everything. It's not just movies. It's also the way that content is being promoted to be produced by content creators on social media platforms. Like nobody wants like real stories, real inspiration, real quality shit. They just want like things that are. And I think people want that. They're being pushed to produce things that are very clickbait, very mindless.
Well, that's kind of what these new apps are, right? Isn't that what TikTok is? It's a 5-minute or 10-second thing,
10
and it's
seconds,
done. And those kids make a lot of money off of that shit. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean they're making money, but I mean, yeah, there's people up there like big time up there making money, but not. It doesn't spread. It's not, the butter doesn't spread as far as it does on YouTube. The people that are making big money on YouTube, they spread that butter. It goes for a long way. A lot of people make a lot of money on YouTube, and even people that don't make the biggest bucks still make good money on YouTube. So, and it's about creating real content, about creating something that's actually meaningful. You know what I mean?
I guess I'm just old.
Yeah.
I'm just not up with the times. I did do a video or a movie series, and it was on some kind of a streaming platform, and it was based on a comic book, and that Rusty Coons was in that with me, and Evan Seinfeld from Biohazard, the singer from Biohazard, and Andrew Bernarski, Leatherface, he was in it. I don't know how you make any money from that. I don't know enough about that to know how that works, but I think we're getting in the weeds on that.
Well, yeah, on Netflix it's hard because Netflix doesn't have advertisers, right? They just have subscribers. So the more people that watch that thing that are subscribers, and the more people that join the platform because this thing is on their platform, then that's like what they show the shareholders, right? YouTube they have the ability, you can subscribe and pay for YouTube to get all the content with ad free, right? $10, $15 a month, just like Netflix and these other platforms, right? But if you don't, then you can also watch these videos with their own ads they put into it, right? And those ads, so I watched a video last night because I'm on a kick right now where I'm trying to restructure my business. YouTube gives 55% of all the revenue back to content creators, right? So if I make YouTube videos, they give, I think they did, I think it was like $55 billion last year is what the whole YouTube did on ad revenue. And they gave 55% of that back to people that make videos.
That's a lot of money.
Yes. And so right now, Instagram, like we have Reels, right? Reels, they do give you money if you sign up and you have like a creator type account. But it's only like, you got to think, there's billions, I think at least 1 billion people or 2 on Instagram. But there's only like 1 billion or 2 that they're giving back to put into it, but it's $1 billion platform, Does that make sense?
That's crazy.
Bigger people, more people eating off a smaller pie.
Yeah. So YouTube is a bigger place. You can make a full living off YouTube, but it's hard.
I see it. I see people do it.
Yeah.
Have you ever made $1 from anything? Have you really?
My YouTube, which all we really do is a live podcast on there. There's no editing involved, none of that. We still, every 3 months, we might get a $200 check. It's not much.
Dude, my hat is off to you. You're getting something.
Yeah.
That's
I get
crazy.
more money off Instagram by making a stupid ass reel. And it's like every time I would try to make a good one, like a good little video on their reels, nothing. If I just catch her Jaden riding a bike past me for 15 seconds, 60,000 views, $100.
Jesus.
I'm good looking. I don't know what to say.
Wow. All right, let's get out of that kind of stuff. Let's get back into the FXR. What time? Can I take a break?
No? How are we going to take a break?
Dude, you took a break. It's my turn.
You got to piss?
Yeah.
No, you don't.
I want to have a smoke. If I smoke in the house, my wife will kill me.
Let me see if I can pause it real quick. Hold on. All right, so we're back. Did you get your fix?
Yes, I did. It was good.
Well, so, on another tangent, because we were kind of talking about all that the nowadays culture shit, but what was it like working on other sets and these other TV shows and other movies you have done? Like, because you were talking about how, like, there's a lot of bike culture people in other things.
Sure. And so, there is, we discussed the difference between network TV and how many episodes and budgets and that kind of stuff. But, when the Sons thing was kicking off, every TV show wanted to have like a biker episode.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's like, so CSI, Mentalist, Bones, Entourage, True Blood. I mean, the list goes on. And so now when you're on Sons, like I said, it opened a lot of doors for me. So I was able to go. So my friend Jim, he's passed away since, but we started this casting company together. Mm-hmm. So once I had 60 guys on my crew and Jim had another 50 or 60 guys on his crew, we got 120 guys. So every TV show that wanted to do a biker episode, they would hit us up.
Get the fuck
Yeah, it's
out,
fucking
dude.
great money, man.
Genius.
We're plugged in. We had like all the Hollywood biker culture basically in our roster. So CSI comes calling, hey, we need 14 bikers. Okay, no problem. Here's my book. What guys you want? And same thing, Mentalist and movies. What was that one that we talked about earlier with McConaughey and Trace Atkins?
The Lincoln Lawyer.
Lincoln Lawyer. Yeah, those are all my guys. So not only do I get paid, but they all get paid too. And I get paid some of their money as well. So, of course, it was very lucrative for me to try and ride that train as long as I could. So it started in 2008. What happened in 2008? The housing market took a shit.
Yeah.
So I've been in construction for a long period of time in my life. So I needed to find a way to make money, and this filled the void perfectly. Mm-hmm. So, I was blessed to be able to work on a lot of shows with my friends. And most of the guys that work on these shows are sober guys, because those are the guys you can count on. Hey, we got a call time at 6 a.m. in Hollywood. They're up at 5, ready to go. We're on the bikes and we're heading down there. You can't just pick up a dirty biker in a bar who's out till 2 or 3 in the morning and expect him to even show up at 5 in the morning.
I feel like if it was me and my homies, we'd probably stay out all night. Be like, dude, we're going to be in a TV show tomorrow riding bikes. Yeah, let's do another shot.
Yeah, that's the problem. So, there is a bit of professionalism.
And then we take Adderall.
Yeah, I've never tried that. It was after I was done. But so there's also the part where there's different clubs working on these shows.
Yeah.
And away from the movie set, they may have their problems or their issues with each other, but when you get to the television show, all that stuff has to be left at the door. Mm-hmm. Because this is professionalism. You're getting paid. to be there. You can't just go start a fight in the middle of a set because you don't like this guy's colors or blah blah blah. This is a paycheck.
Yeah.
So there has to be a level of professionalism, but we also brought a level of realism because these are guys that ride bikes. They can ride a bike. They know how to ride a bike. They know how to dress the part. They know how to act. So that's where we kind of cornered the market on that.
That makes sense. I mean, that was probably bikers prior to Sons, and even still sometimes now when you see them on TV shows, it's always portrayed, like you said, that first casting agent that was looking for the typical overweight, big belly, definitely Republican, kind of looking.
Wow.
Just definitely like somebody that's very, like it looks like something like that, like some shit you see in Roadhouse or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's different types of bikers based on what that show is and what they're looking for. Of course, you look at Wild Hogs. There is a bunch of overweight dudes in there because they have that stereotype in mind. We want the big guy with the big beard and that look. But Sons was a younger generation show, so they couldn't have those guys really. And if you watch Sons, you watch a funeral scene or you watch a lot of those scenes where there's 60 people there, only like 10 or 15 or 20% are those older guys that they just needed more people to fill those spots.
Well, it looked authentic having the the varied ages, but yes, having the younger guys was awesome.
It's reality. It's what the culture is today, right? So I don't know any motorcycle clubs that are just old guys.
Hog chapters. The dealership rides that...
Does that even count?
No, but I'm saying like that's who it is. Like there's a lot of people that when they hear the word biker and they think of your hog, like in their brain they go to the hog chapter.
Have you ever ridden with a group from the hog chapter?
Yeah, one time.
They're fucking scary.
One time.
Yeah, those guys...
I wasn't scared as much as it just sucked.
I was scared when I rode them. There was women and all kinds of people in the pack, and they're all over the place. They don't understand true etiquette.
Yeah.
And that comes from riding with the same guys over and over in a tight pack at a very high speed. You learn it real quick. Those guys, they just bought a bike last week. It still has the paper plates on it, and now they got a shiny new Harley Davidson vest with shiny Harley Davidson boots and shiny Harley Davidson chaps and fucking bedazzled jeans and all kinds of shit, and they're in the club, the hog chapter.
Well, it's hard for people. I mean, to be fair, devil's advocate, if you will. I mean, how many people do you think probably watched a show like Sons that were in their mid 40s, maybe late 40s, that maybe divorced, maybe don't have a family to take care of, but just, I don't know, maybe they got a little bit of money and they want to find something that is we've talked about this so much on the podcast that when you find the cheat code to get into this world, to find a group of friends that you click with that all feel the same way you do about bikes, it's like finding your soulmate in a marriage. It's not as easy. Some of us, it comes easier than others, but it's not as easy as it really is. I mean, if you're a very hot dude with like I heard you got
a hammer.
A hammer, right? That's what you said. It's probably not hard for you to find a hot chick that wants to love you.
I don't walk around swinging the hammer out,
Okay, JT.
That's funny. But, to be a real, they say that 1% chapter, those guys, they're born, and I know a lot of guys that are second generation in the club that have come up. That's their family. That's their life. They've come up through that life.
Yeah.
Or all their associates that they hang out with, and they're molded to be that. But the new guy coming in who wants to fit in, I understand that. You want to feel like you're with a group of people that are kind of your own, and hanging out at the Harley dealership all day. I guess if that's your
It's the
bag.
closest thing that you can find, depending on where you're from. I mean, you got to understand, like, you're from. I mean, you're cutting your teeth in the motorcycle mecca in Ventura, right?
Yeah, but I don't ever even go to the dealership because there's nothing there for me.
Yeah. Well, you had other options.
Maybe there's a battery, you know.
Yeah.
There's nothing. They don't even sell shit for my bike anymore. You know, maybe a tire. But
Well, at the same time, I would say that like people that sometimes buying into an older bike like an FXR, you can kind of buy. You can't buy into it, but you can get the bike, and then there's places you can go and find the people, and those people can help, educate you on what it is to be in this.
Right.
And that's what happened to me. Like I said, been in the motorcycles for quite a while, but the camaraderie and the shirt off my back mentality that I got from the FXR world was the most. I don't even know how to say it right, but it was really an eye-opening thing for me, because I'd been in such a cutthroat industry for so long,
right.
that this industry, like, I needed to be in the FXR world before I did this podcast, because if I would have did this podcast before that, I would have probably been like every other fucking dude that was, like that just thinks that their shit doesn't stink kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I will tell you, and in my experience with the type of motorcycle I ride and the people, my eyes have been opened only recently in the last 5 to 7 years. I've had the bike for 22 years. I have another one. Mm-hmm. But when I got to a place where there was more people like me, I loved them even more. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go to an event, it doesn't matter where you go, that has that particular bike. You go to the FXR Jam and there's 150 bikes like that, and every one of them is a pretty solid dude. I mean, anybody that comes through this town, they always got a place to stay.
Yeah.
I couldn't really say that for someone who came through this town on a different type of bike, because, maybe I don't have that closeness, or I don't have that common theme. But the guys that I have met have all been solid. Mm-hmm. And it's like a brotherhood, and it's so simple. It's just, we ride the same kind of motorcycle. We have the same interest. Mm-hmm. Look at what Joe just did. He just went 7,000 miles and change with 5 other dudes on FXRs.
Yeah.
That's a family.
Yeah.
And he's probably one of the best examples of that genre of bike. He's the kind of dude that would help you on the side of the road. He would work on your bike if you didn't know how to. Mm-hmm. He'd give you a place to sleep. He'd give you half of his money for his last sandwich. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's that dude, and I aspire to be that kind of person.
Yeah.
And so I'm honored to be in this group.
Yeah.
And I'm not a guy that just jumped into this group because of Sons of Anarchy or anything else. I've had this bike for 22 years, so
I think this group kind of formed itself through the education of older men that's ridden it, and I think that was passed into guys like Nick and Joe and Harry and FXR Mike and Josh, NorCal. There's so many badass dudes in FXRs. Sean,
the East Coast has a stack of them too.
Yeah, and Scotty from Long Island. I need to fly that dude to Texas. He's fucking so rad. There's so many dudes in I got my first taste of New York and Long Island in 2020, and we hung out with some FXR guys up there because we were hanging out with Detroit, Clem Speedshot. They're FXR guys. Danny D, he's from Queens, I believe, but he was staying out in Detroit. Even out there, like the connection to FXR is like the red carpet's rolled out for everybody.
Sure,
in a sense, and it feels like that everywhere. And I got to give it to the FXR community because I haven't owned one. I haven't ridden one like on the street. I've owned plenty, but I haven't had like one since my gold bike.
That was a beautiful
and they still give me the fucking pass, and I'm forever grateful.
You had a legit, beautiful ground up bike, and you earn that. You earn that pass.
Yeah, I feel like that's the most. That trip that I took on that bike out here to NorCal down to Born Free, that was like my most tried experience riding a bike. And not to bash the bike at all. It was just it was a much needed humbling of being a guy that travels on bikes. I think that
A guy that travels on a 30-year-old bike.
I mean, trust me, like I love how confident I am riding my bagger right now. Every once in a while, they're here. Had some weird starts on this trip. Like, dude, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, a couple really funny timed ones too.
Yeah,
like a guy that listens to the podcast, Dimitri, I believe. So we're coming through. Randomly saw us this small little town, like pulled his semi over. Hopped out, came over, said what's up at a gas station. Which the balls it takes to walk up and go, "Hey man, I listen to the podcast," and we're all there. And super solid guy, but.
I've had some hard times starting the bike.
But right after, so did the whole thing, took a picture, and as soon as the guy's walking off, we go to start the bikes up, and his just whatever it was doing, glug 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 glug. It was we all lost our shit laughing. It was great.
Dude, I think it was the FXRD. I left Ventura going to the jam. I think it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And I stopped in Mojave to get gas. Now, Mojave to Topaz is quite a long distance.
That's a good run.
I filled the bike up with gas. It wouldn't fucking start. It's fucking 100 degrees in Mojave.
Yeah.
I'm sitting with the bike. I can't start. I'm under this little twig of a tree trying to get some shade. I bump started that bike by myself, and I never shut it off all the way to Topaz. I was like speed racer, fuel tank, bike running. I was just scared it wouldn't start again. What it ended up being was the little starter solenoid. Mm-hmm. And I get up there, and there was a dude who had got up there. He's like, "Oh, I got an extra one on my bike. Here you go." Yeah. Just like that. Put it in, bike started right up. That's family. That's love right there.
Well, that's what's awesome. Like, not to say that like this generation on these newer bikes, these Softails and these performance baggers, these bikes haven't been out long enough, and the culture hasn't been around long enough to create that.
It will.
Because
the Dyna's been out for what, 20-something years now? 22, 23 years? So that culture is growing, and that culture will be there in another 20 years, but FXRs are 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And change.
Quick interjection, and maybe I'm just over-optimist guy, but I do feel like it's not even performance baggers, but almost like our camp out. Like the kind of people that attend our camp out, it's a compliment to the FXR community, whether they want to take it or not, but you guys have inspired a whole generation of guys that, whether they're on a new Softail, a Dyna, a performance bagger, the whole stop, I'll do whatever I can, I'll ship you apart, I'll wait with you on the road. The same kind of love and exclusivity you guys have, I feel like the exclusivity is loosened, but you guys have set a tone. Like it really, and I do feel like it's because honestly, everybody wants an FXR, and every dude on a Dyna, every dude on a new, like if everybody could, everybody would have a sick FXR and would love to do it. Yeah. But some people just can't. Whether it's the means, whether it's I'm not mechanically able.
They might have the money to buy one, but they don't have the mechanical knowledge to own one.
It's a whole other commitment to get where you guys are at. But
I'm not that.
But you guys have set the tone as far as the community, and this is what we do. And I just feel like the next step, it's not bike exclusive. It's one of those things like we're all in and we know the difference. The guy you see a guy from the camp out, you can wink at him and that's a different kind of guy than the guy at the Harley deal. I don't know. Well, there's just a camaraderie we all have.
When you're winking at somebody at the camp out and you say it's a different kind of guy, what do you mean?
Well, I'm just saying it's like
we party, bro.
You know what I mean? Like you see a guy with a Rebels Den hat or a thrashing gloves or something. There's just the brands. Our little group
I would be extremely interested to see you come to our camp out.
You'd have the fucking time of your life.
First of all, you would have a time of your life.
So much fun.
But then secondly, because you're so ingrained in a good way with the culture of California and so for so many years, and especially with the club world and things like that, just to see how I would hope this is the case, that this shit is still alive heavily across the country.
I'm sure it is.
You know?
I mean, it's not exclusive to California.
Yeah.
But I think it really, in the bigger scheme of things, and it's not even about a motorcycle, it's how you are as a man towards mankind.
Yeah.
That's really what it stems from.
But I think that on your point about that, that's, to me, I feel like we all have to get to a point where we're around men enough to be inspired to become men in that sense. Because, like you said you had a dad. My dad was there. He kind of helped out here and there. I kind of learned a couple things from him. But I can tell you 5 people in my life that I, not by choice, but just by, I just made them my father figure. Some of those guys being a drafting teacher in high school. I got real close with him, as he didn't touch me or anything, but I got close with him. The painter I spoke of earlier that was, that I worked under, like, you find people and you real recognizes real. Like, if you're just someone that's searching to be a great person, I want to be something good. I want to be people. I want to be the kind of guy that when people meet me, they go, "That's a fucking." I want to be like that guy.
That's
Not because I want the fame of it, but I just want. I want to leave the best impression possible.
And that's important because as you walk through life, first and foremost, you're only as good as your word.
Yeah.
And when you die, I don't give a shit how much money you have or how poor you are. The people are going to remember you. He was a piece of shit, or that was a man of his word. He was a solid motherfucker.
Yeah.
So getting back to the FXR thing and thinking that I might be mechanically inclined, the only reason I know mostly about what could be wrong with my bike is trial and error over the 22 years of that thing breaking down.
Yeah.
I mean, I got it figured out. It's been through 3 motors. It's been through many facelifts. I got that one mastered now. I couldn't say the same for a twin cam fuel injected Dyna.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know where to start. But the Evo motor, I think I got a pretty good grasp on it and know how that shit works. The biggest failure for those bikes, being 30 to 40 years old, is usually a wiring situation, because you're getting a bike that's gone two or three owners, and the wiring harness is just a rat's nest of shit, where they've added this and taken out that and
spliced in here and there.
Oh yeah, it's
you had to put LEDs on, so you spliced into this.
Oh fuck! So I just go with Arnell, rewire the whole thing with one of these custom M units.
Yeah.
And then you're bulletproof. Then the bike is, if you have good wiring in those bikes and you have a solid motor, they're just as dependable as anything else.
Yeah.
But it's just,
I don't disagree at all.
You're on a 40-year-old bike. The wire's been chewed on by some rats. Your neck is turned so many times that the wires are kind of getting beat up in the neck. And, for me, it's a comfortable bike. It's a good bike. I've learned a lot about that particular model, and now I seek other FXRs. So,
yeah.
Like the RD I got out there. I mean, that was because I loved my FXR so much. I wanted a bagger, but not really a bagger. I had an Ultra Classic, and it was all right. It was comfortable, but it was a fucking beast, and that's an old man bike. I'm not that old yet, As soon as I get Randy Bryden's age, then maybe I'll get a bagger, because I know he's an old fart. But that's another legit dude on bikes. If you know Randy,
I don't know who's.
I think his handle is FXR 1989 on Instagram. That guy turns out the cleanest bikes. He must do a dozen of them a year. Flips them, and that guy is legit. He doesn't get along with everybody. He's from Boston. He's got a personality from Boston. But
I'm following him.
In my opinion, he's another solid dude. There's a lot of the guys that I know, and I don't know everybody, but you look at the Jessups.
Yeah.
Those guys have knocked it out of the park with their bikes. They win shows, and and John got out and he got to move to Tennessee and open another shop. another guy that I respect. And then there's the young kids coming up. There's this kid that I turned on to this particular brand of my bike is Bryce Miller. He's in Ventura, Miller Speed Co. He had never had an FXR until I had him work on mine. And then, he was a Dyna kid. He's got one. Cade from Unknown Industries, another one who's got pretty tricked out FXR. There's a lot of them in California. That's kind of a hotbed of those bikes. And unless you've gone to the FXR Jam and experienced the West Coast one, now the East Coast is getting a little bigger. And there's a lot of knowledge back east. I'm sure, I don't know the guys, but I'm sure they're just as solid back there as they are on the West Coast. But if you go to the FXR Jam or even look at the pictures from last year, there's 150 FXRs in that parking lot. You'll never see that many anywhere at any time ever. Not at Sturgis, not anywhere. The last time there was that many in one spot was on the assembly line. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And they're fucking beautiful. And everyone's unique in their customizations, And there's so many things you can do to these bikes. For me, it's just a passion. When I rode that bike the first time, I just knew that I could trick that bike out and I was going to be happy with it.
Yeah.
And if I got loaded, I was going to lose that bike. So, for me to still have it, that's a miracle after 22 years, because I haven't had the best track record, but I still got it and I'm happy for it.
Dude, they're both sick, and that RD is something else.
It's
It
nice.
is insane.
It's nice. That's from Randy. Originally, before Maston bought it.
Oh, it was
that one came from Randy.
Nice.
What's up, guys? I need to drop in real quick and give a big thank you and shout out to thundermax EFI for helping me make this podcast trip possible. I just got home from a 28-day, 7,200-mile bike trip where I at least filled up my gas tank once a day. My 131 was humming through the desert, mountains, forests, and even plenty of rain. The thundermax ECM kept my bike running and operating like a champ. With its auto-tuning technology, the elevation, humidity, and temperature changes never affected my bike's performance. Their ECMs are a must for anyone looking to add all the go-fast goodies to your EFI-equipped Harley Davidson. My Road Glide is paired with the thundermax cooling fan, which is available for the touring M8 models. Lane splitting in California's traffic and heat gets the motor oil hot, but with the fan, I was able to keep my bike's temps in the safe zone. Check out all these amazing products at shoptmax.com, and when you're ready to make the upgrade, use FASTLIFE at checkout to save yourself 10%. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, like I said, man, the FXR, I jokingly, to who it may concern, my FXR was a bike that I did based on what I fell in love with about FXRs, and I was a big fan of Nick's from Unknown's FXR, the gold one.
Right.
Unfortunately, everybody in the world doesn't understand that paint colors are not as... There's not as many paint colors as people think there is, right? They're always like, oh, man, he painted a green bike, he's copying me. Oh, he painted a gold bike, he's copying me. I like that bike. I like the gold. That gold, I painted that thing since that dude Nick was in probably elementary school. I've painted bikes that color.
And now that bike still lives, or that paint color still lives in Hawaii?
It still lives in
Somewhere.
Hawaii. So I will say that that bike was the inspiration for mine, but to act like anybody owns that color, calm the fuck down.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, he was my inspiration, but unfortunately in this world, like, nobody owns the colors of their bikes. You build a cool bike, it's got a nice color. I did my own version of it.
You did your own flavor. Yeah. And look, that one he had, that gold one, beautiful bike.
Yeah.
But the one you had also, beautiful bike, different flavor.
Different, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, because there's a million black bikes, and there's a million blue bikes. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten more to the stage of not being as flashy as I was in my younger age.
Yeah.
So both of my bikes look pretty stock, paint scheme wise, even though neither one of them is stock.
That was one of those weird things. Like talking to you earlier, this came up, and I I said it, but I feel like it's a revelation in a sense. I feel like it's a younger man's game to paint a bike. It helps get them the attention that after you've acquired attention over your lifetime, you get in your later years, and this is no dig you being older or anything like that, so don't take it that way.
I don't give a fuck.
But once you get older, it's like, you know what, I'm not trying to put my name at the front of the list here. I want a nice bike based on what I want, not based on what society wants right now. But when for some of us, we have to build bikes, brand wise, we have to build a bike that's going to appease the masses. That way we can get the attention we need to grow the brand.
Well, you're in you're in the industry of painting bikes.
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't want to paint an all black bike with nothing, a $1,500 paint job.
Yeah.
You want the exotic stuff that people are going to go, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to put some work into that thing. I'm willing to pay 10 G's for that paint job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you earn a living. So I understand that.
Yeah.
Now, for me as a rider, I've had the flashy bikes. I had one of your paint jobs. It was fucking beautiful. And the mishap that happened with that, and it is what it is. But so there's different kind of paint jobs for different applications of what you're looking for. Is it a show bike? Are my bike show bikes? No. Do they go? Yes, they go. But I'm trying to be under the radar, subtle. They look stock. As stock as you can make a 124-inch motor look. I mean, my bikes look pretty much like out of the factory, but they're different, Yeah,
it takes a real eye to walk past your bike and see. Not a real eye, but it takes an enthusiast to see all the things you've done to it. I mean, the one on the RD 124 6-speed Baker. There's so much little things that are done, but it's also built to travel,
purpose
to hit the road.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It goes.
I remember because my FXR, mine was I ran an Ultima motor on my FXR, and you were running one on the other FXR, not the touring one, but the
right. That was my second Ultima in 10 years.
Yeah, I didn't have a bad time on an Ultima, man.
Yeah, people talk a lot of shit about them, but maybe the early ones, and I can vouch for it. The early ones had problems.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, oh, they're made overseas or whatever. I don't care where they're made. They run. The problem that I had was with an American-made Jim's lifter that sucked a rod, or the push rod bent, went up through the top, bent, had some problems with it. But Ultima stood behind it. And that was like 9 or 10 years ago. It was a 120, and they were cheap. And I got like 80,000 miles out of that fucking motor.
Yeah.
And then I started hearing some bottom end noises. It's a fucking $3,000 motor at that time. Fuck, that's disposable. When S&S's are $7,500 or $7,000. So I just upgraded to the 131, which has been good.
Yeah.
I don't have any problems with it. I don't care that it's an Ultima. It gets me from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And
so how do you feel about, being the other one's a 124, right?
The S&S motor is a 124.
So how do you feel about the two, like being someone that's ridden both of them?
I don't think you necessarily need a 131 in an FXR.
That's probably what got you in trouble with that paint job.
You don't need it. I mean, the 120 was a good enough motor. It was a square motor. It was a strong motor. I know a lot of guys, and I follow along on a lot of the social media pages. A lot of guys run those motors.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna break, but so is an S&S, so is a RevTech, so is anything.
Yeah.
It's like having a small block Camaro that's built to shit, like a 67 Camaro, and you take it to the drag strip, it's gonna break.
Yeah.
So when you put a motor like that in your bike and you ride it like an asshole, like we all do, shit's gonna break. And if it's not the motor, it's gonna be the driveline. It could be the tranny. It could be something goes on with your chains and something in the primary. The weak link is gonna go.
Yeah.
But at my older age, I don't ride like an idiot like I used to. That little 131 motor. Before I left Ventura, I got up to 147 on that thing. You know where those jets are on PCH before Neptunes?
Yeah.
So I had a GPS on the phone because the speedometer on the FXR speedometer, it would go all the way to the M where it says MPH on the bottom, but I put the updated 99 and up gauges on it, and so it stops right at 121. There's like a pin or something. But on a phone, you can see how fast you're going. And at that speed, I started thinking about the beads on the tires. Mm-hmm. Like, are the tires rated for this kind of speed? And I kind of got a little scared. But that thing goes, and it was pulling still. And I was with like this guy Bryce, that Miller Speedco guy, and a couple other guys, and it fucking goes. So it's got more than enough power. You don't need that. You just don't. I think that was an ego thing. I could have been happy with the 111 SNS or a 120 Ultima. Yeah. It's probably enough.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I do. I think the FXR that I'm probably gonna have built or do is 82 FXR. I want to have FXR mic, TPJ, and I want to do a chop, but I want it to be a bike that I keep forever.
Well, why don't you put one of those 131 M8s in there? I seen a dude did that shit.
Dude, I don't know if you know about Corey, Main Drive Cycles out of Dallas. Mm-hmm. So I'm fucking so stoked about this FXR that he's building because he took an exact, like a whole M8 drivetrain, wheels. He repurposed an entire bagger onto an FXR. You know what I mean? Mid controls, swing arm. It's beautiful. Everything's like hand controls, everything. You know what I mean? All full RT stuff, bags, fairing.
Nice.
But it's complete. It's so fucking beautiful, man.
So it's like a 2022
FXR. Exactly.
Yeah. That's the best of all worlds.
Like real deal.
Because it's still going to handle right. You have this durability of this new drivetrain, all new wiring, all the latest controls and shit. Beautiful.
It's going to be amazing, man. He
hasn't rushed it. It's been taking its time. Does everything. If you know the guy, he does everything. It's insane, dude.
Well, now you got the cheat sheet on, how to put that thing together and get that motor in the frame.
Yeah, I keep asking, hey man, what would you do that for me for? He's like, Corey is a very meticulous guy. He's like an engineer by trade, so he's like somebody that he's the guy you want to have a bike built. If you have the money, he's the guy you want because he puts himself in a zone where it's him in that one problem, that one part, that one thing he has to design, that one problem he has to solve, and nothing else matters, and he does it to the T, as opposed to like sitting back and thinking like, oh, I'm only getting this much money to paint this bike, I just need to make this work. This bike he's building is I don't know, I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him because I think that he is a chopper guy, and he fell in love with the FXR world in his last one, and this one he just wanted to build this, and he's doing it in a way that nobody else has done. Everybody's done the full aftermarket way, right? We've seen like 2 or 3 FXR M8 FXRs, and they've all been like to the T's, to the gills of fucking just performance parts, like the new trendy shit. But this bike is going to be one of those bikes that you're going to walk by and not even know what the fuck you just walked by.
Yeah.
And there's something to that, right?
Yeah.
Like you said.
Discreetness, you know? But yeah, that guy knows what's in it, and a real connoisseur knows what's in it.
Exactly.
But the average Joe says that's a bitchin' looking Sportster,
Exactly.
The guy at the gas station.
Yeah.
Hey, what year Sportster is that?
I don't know. It's the one that'll take $100 from you right now.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Like that, there's not a shortage of bad motherfuckers that ride FXRs. That's for damn sure.
There's a lot of talented young kids coming up too, and they're so the young kids that have the Dynas, started off on the Dynas, are now kind of looking at how do I get me one of them FXR things, right? Mm-hmm. And they're working their way into it, but it's not a financeable bike, so you got to have paper. So you're starting to see a lot more 20, 22-year-olds getting these bikes. And I think Cade might have a lot to do with it, unknown Cade. because he's got a badass FXR and he rides wheelies like there's no tomorrow, and all the little kids look up to him and they're like, I want to be just like him. I got to get one of those bikes. You know, a lot of young kids aren't looking at the old dude who's 45 who's been in the FXR world for 25 years. They're looking at the hip, cool kids.
Yeah.
And so it's starting to grow. And I noticed last year at Topaz, there was a handful of youngsters, you know, and they ride wheelies and they beat the shit out of those bikes. And unless you got the money to keep repairing shit, you know, you learn to start being a little nicer to your bike. And I see that transition of the younger group kind of filling in the void, because there's a lot of guys in their 60s and 70s that just can't ride the bike anymore.
Yeah.
And they've got it in their garage, and finally they let it go to their son or a kid from the neighborhood, and you know, it's good. It's going to keep that bike alive, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And it'll help networking, because you can't find any fucking parts anywhere.
Well, I think things like what Joe and Woodgrain FXR and these guys are doing, like the whole concept of the Triple Crown, I think puts these guys that wanted to do wheelies to the test. Like, yeah, doing a wheelie's fucking hard. Like, to do a real wheelie, it's fucking hard. Like, we can all get our bikes up if we got motor, right?
I'm scared.
But to get it to where you got to do a fucking wheelie and hold it, that's a skill.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody's cut out for that. And not everybody's cut out to jump on that bike and go across country or to do 200 miles.
That's a huge commitment.
Yeah.
That's not only do you have to have the paper. See, I always ask Joe, I said, Joe, how do you get the fucking time off like that? It's like either you have a job where you're making a lot of money and you don't have time, or you got a lot of time, but you don't have no money. It's one or the other. Joe makes it work no matter what.
Yeah.
He's a sharp cat. So my hat's off to those guys that are doing that Triple Crown this year. I think there was 3 of them last year. The 3 guys on the RTs, or one RP
Sean Jackson. Sean, he was on the podcast a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, those guys did it, and those bikes look like, you know, they were like show bikes kind
Yeah,
of. They
yeah.
were like nice bikes.
Yeah.
But
they
fucking
came all the
did.
way from fucking Sean's in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Outside of
trek.
Pittsburgh, I think. Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to do that eventually in my life. I got to work.
Yeah.
You know,
There's no shame to anybody out there that has to work. I mean, it's not about like how much you do. It's just that you do it. You know what I mean? Like that
every
you try
day,
to do it.
day in,
You know what I'm
day
saying?
out. Yeah, so that would be, especially if you're going with the guys that are your boys, you know, or even if it's a new guy in your crew, he will become your boy, you know, after 7,000 fucking miles.
I'm gonna tell you this, like, you know, after doing, like, you know, we're sitting here right now, and me and Jaden are both 3,600 miles into what's looking like a 5,000 to 7,000 mile trip, right? And you know, there's a little bit of bitterness, or a bittersweetness to the fact that we just split it off with our dudes that we've been on the road with for the last 14 days.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. Like every year, if somebody, I mean, we have another group of homies that are holding down bike night right now. That seeing them do that, I'm like, fuck, that's fucking awesome. That feels so good. I can't wait to do what I just did with my other 6 dudes, with those new dudes too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, you want to add a twist to it, do it on a 40-year-old bike. So then it's a real fucking challenge, you know? Are we going to make
We're
it?
gonna do a 2-week trip to Albuquerque.
Are we going to make it? And then how much extra gas do we need to bring with us for when we run out in our little 3.4 gallon tanks?
Yeah.
So when I showed you that map to get out of here,
Yeah.
I have to stop every 100 miles. Big inch motors, they suck
Yeah.
fuel. And if you don't, you're stranded out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
I don't get that much. I mean, I if I keep it under 90, I can do about 145, 150 out of my bike. So
That's pretty good.
yeah, on my FXR when I had that 113 in it, at 125 you had 3 miles to get it to a gas station. You're fucked. Straight
I
up.
just carry this. I got this military canteen that holds about a solid pint and a half, and I just keep that with me when I go, just in case,
Yeah.
because anything could happen.
Yeah.
What's the last big ride you went on?
Well, moving up here it's been different because, you know, I don't know anybody up here. So my last big ride was with the club up here, kind of up through the mountains. It wasn't big at all by any means, like 150 miles. They want to go this weekend to Eugene for the drags.
Yeah.
But I got other things I got to do, so that's not going to happen.
So how has this transition been from being in Ventura for so long and now being up here in Boise, and
Well, it's
pros,
bittersweet.
cons?
It's bittersweet. I miss my friends, you know. That's probably and my mom and my dad. Okay, so they still live down there. They're getting elderly, but I have to think about the quality of my life too.
Yeah.
Kids are all grown up. They're out of the house, so I've met some new friends up here. The cost of living's better up here. The salary that I was making financially is the same or better up here.
Yeah.
The quality of life, I think that's, as you get older, you have to start thinking about quality of life. California is beautiful, don't get me wrong. I mean, lived at the beach, Southern California. If you think about the planet, the globe itself, where does everybody want to go? They want to go to the America, United States of America. Well, maybe not now with this president we got, but that's what their thought is. You know, it doesn't matter what country you survey. Where do you want to go? Oh, I want to go to America. Okay, in America, where do most people want to go? They want to go to California. So,
And in
then
California, where do they want to go?
Southern
The
California.
beach.
Yeah. So break down Southern California. So between Santa Barbara and Malibu, or let's say Santa Barbara and Los Angeles, the most prime real estate is between like Beverly Hills, Malibu, Santa Barbara. That is like the most premier area in Southern California, unless you're down lower like La Jolla down in San Diego, or you're up a little bit north, Bay Area. There's some really expensive homes up there. But just the rat race of life in California, it seems like you're just, it's a hustle and bustle to get nowhere on the freeway. It's a grind every day to go to work. The taxes and the expenses with life are just astronomical. It seems like everywhere you turn around, you're getting taxed on something, or something costs more. This bill went up, that bill went up. It gets to a point where when you think the long-term game, when it's retirement time, can you sustain life? You know, a house like this, the property taxes in California are, 12, 15 grand a year. It's a lot of money. That's if you own the house free and clear. Got to pay that property taxes.
Still
Texas, I know it's a
$1,000.
lot worse. They got some heavy duty property taxes in
They
Texas.
do. Yeah, they do.
But, up here, you can buy $1 million, a California house that's $1 million, $1.2 million. You can buy it up here for 300 grand. And everything's cheaper. You register a car in California, it's $750 for a year. Actually, the Harleys, I was paying $150 to $170 a year for 35-year-old Harleys. It's $25 a year up here. My insurance, vehicle insurance down there was like $2 grand for some AAA, but it was shit insurance. Up here, it's like $600.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. I think that for the long term, I think it's a good decision.
Yeah.
But I do miss my friends, my family. But there's social media. I can find out what they're doing. I can call. It's not like I have to write a letter with the stamp.
Yeah, that's the thing that, my wife being from there, like we've always, put it on the table, like, should we try to go back for you? I mean, I'm a Dallasite. I've been there my whole life. Right. So I do yearn this idea of like having a life in a different place that I didn't grow up in. Right. But man, we just, in so many ways we have it made because we're in the center of the country. We're 1,000 miles from pretty much everything we want to do. 1,300 from LA. And so, and our life is so much cheaper there that we get to go to these cool places and just be visitors.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. And in the industry that I'm in, that we're all a part of, being outside of California, a lot of times you feel so excluded from so many things or so many opportunities, or you're not your name doesn't get put in the hat because you're not even close to where the hat's being, the name's being putting in, right?
It depends on what name you're looking for. I searched you out.
Yeah,
I knew you weren't from Texas. I mean, you weren't from California. But I knew the quality of your work was every bit as good as what the best stuff was in the state I was in.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted something unique. I wanted something that I thought was appropriate cost-wise. So I seeked you out.
Yeah.
I think that gold bike was a big part of it, too.
And I appreciate that, man, because, in my opinion, this once again might be a very uneducated opinion, but I feel like the shareholders of the motorcycle industry right now are lazy, and they don't look very far from wherever they're sitting to find people they can put on. You know what I mean? And that's one, like I said, that's that entitlement thing we were talking about earlier. I do have that. It is something I try to get rid of a lot, but I do battle with it because in some aspects it's there. You know what I mean? I work twice as hard as some people in California to be recognized, but then they work twice as hard as me sometimes just to pay their rent. So it's
absolutely
it's a weird, like, well, fuck us both.
Well, you have to look at the way I look at things is if you want something really, really quality, you have to seek that out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like if I wanted to get a tattoo, I could go down to the corner and pay $50 and have some tweaker scratch some shit on my leg. Instead, I would pay $1,000 to find the best guy in the country, and I would fly to him because that shit's forever.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not the kind of guy that's just, I think I want some ink on my arm, so I'm going to go get it done. I'm not impulsive like that. I'm particular about the quality of shit that I like, and that's why I sought you out.
What I'm hoping to bring to the motorcycle industry, not that I have the best quality in the world of anything I've done. I just always try to put my best foot forward, right?
That's your name.
And what I would like to bring is, I feel like, I guess much like what Hollywood is, from what you've explained, it's like nobody wants to like share. Like
Hollywood's very self-centered.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people in this, or a lot, that's not the right word. I feel like I can't, if it ever happens, I can't wait to be one of the people of the motorcycle industry that can push, that they can help people out. You know what I mean? I always think about this like like Rogan. I'm a big Joe Rogan fan. I listen to his podcast, inspired this podcast, things like that. And he can easily just have someone on the podcast and change their life, right? That's a really weird power. I mean, obviously you don't want to fucking whore it out because then it would lose its value.
Right. But it took him a long time to get that power too.
It did. So when it comes to like, when I think of the old heads in our industry, some of the ones that are very well respected, very well known, and how easily they could help, not individually, but as a group of, or as a bigger area of people, how they can just help this thing grow. Because I feel like every year an older generation leaves the motorcycle industry worse than they got it, and the next generation has to try to fix this shit to make it better. And they're like, oh, that looks fun again. I'm going to come back and take the rewards again.
Doesn't that sound like our politicians right now?
Yeah, 100%.
That's fucked up.
It's crazy, like I said, people are going to hate me from saying this, but in 2018 when I started this podcast and we first met and I got my first performance bagger, guess who was thinking about this? No fucking buddy. Nobody was talking about performance baggers. Yes, they were there. I'm not saying they weren't there in California and all this shit, but nobody was talking about them and nobody gave a fuck.
Well, I want to talk about them right now.
Let's do it. You don't like them. I know. I'm going to pee. I'm listening still.
What is a performance bagger?
Well, that's the $1 million question, right?
So, in my opinion, and this isn't for the Jessups who's out there on the track or anybody that's racing the performance bagger league. I'm talking about the general population that drives these things on the roads.
No racing. Yeah.
No racing, because those are real.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
That's real motor work, real suspension. But what I see is a guy puts a set of Öhlins rear shocks on with detachable piggyback that sits on the rear fender. Maybe a set of T-bars on it. Maybe they do some kind of dyno tune and he throws a pipe on it, maybe a HPI or something like that, and then possibly changes the bars to some kind of T-bar, and he's got a performance bagger.
All right. So when it comes to that, I would say you're right on that, except the fact that there's dudes that instead of the way you're describing, like, kind of do this, kind of do that, there's guys that go full bore. What's the best fucking one? What's the one I need? And you missed a few things. You missed seats. You missed foot controls. You missed grips.
But that's all bolt-on shit. There's nothing performance about that.
But
mid controls.
But as far as the kit,
right.
And man, again, I'm not bike Nazi guy, and we've got a buddy who will dig this shout out, but his term, instead of performance baggers, performance touring, because ultimately, like you said, none of us are racing. We're ultimately trying to make our bikes as fast or whatever as possible, but all we do is kind of go long distance on shit. And yeah, we ride some cool roads if we get far enough away because we're all in Texas, but I don't know, performance touring is a probably more fittable term.
I'm gonna give you a timeline.
Well, wait, back up one second, because the stuff we discussed, right, was all pretty much bolt-on shit. We're not talking about, we haven't even touched, which we're probably going to touch right now, is some of those Bay Area original motorcycle clubs that have had baggers, like the Dragons, and those kind of guys, that Goldie, and those guys that build motors like a motherfucker first before they put the $10,000 stereo and $10,000 paint jobs. That's a different... That's not even M8 shit. That's like
twin cam stuff.
Pre M8. But you see all these guys at the local Harley dealership buying all these bolt-on kits. Like you said, foot controls, a seat, some piggyback reservoir shocks, some T-bars. I moved my gauges, and they're claiming
what year's your
performance.
What year's your truck down there?
My truck? 2005.
And then your wife has a newer TR
2022.
Yeah. So
I got
jump in one. Yeah, you got the old one. You got the FXR of that, right?
So I got an 86 FXR.
Yeah.
That I consider fairly performance bagger.
It is 100%. So this is my question to everybody that asked that question, because we're sitting next to a TV that you could not buy when your FXR was out because it didn't exist.
Right.
And if it did exist, it would cost more than this house.
Yeah, I remember those days.
So it's unfortunate, but it's not fair that our generation has bikes like these that are easier, if you will. But we're still getting the same experience of what motorcycles are supposed to give to us. Maybe not with the same aspect of wrenching and being able to work on our bikes on the side of the road. We're privileged in that sense, but it sucks that, like, and this is the tribalism of the world, which I do understand, and I'm guilty of it as well to some aspects and some degrees. But if anybody is riding any bike, like you said earlier, and they're doing the things that you're supposed to do on motorcycles, which is having experiences and enjoying life, then you got to let them fucking make it, right?
Sure.
What I think people get, I guess, uptight about is that right now, performance baggers are hot. They're hot on social media. They're hot on, the Harley's leaning into it. Drag is, the whole industry is leaning into it. So it does kind of like, it taps into tribalism.
Well, I think it's the name itself is a cash cow.
Well, that's because, nobody owns it. There was no like committee that came together and said, I deem this bike the performance bagger. It was a loose thing that pretty much started as a hashtag to a bike that looks like this, but then everybody and their fucking mom decided that they have a performance bagger too.
Right.
And so then it became this whole inclusive thing. And I've never seen so many people that hated this, but you know, look, let me give you the timeline of performance baggers, right? There are dudes in California for years, and I've done podcasts with people that even talked about like putting T-bars on baggers in like '04, right? I respect that. That happened there. You know, then one of the first custom bikes like what we ride now was taking place within San Diego Customs and Danny G, right? Then you got guys like Hoffman, MJK, and some people on the East Coast like Spatafor Choppers that built Race God's bike. Those were some of the early, and I say early, we're talking 2016, right?
Okay.
Obviously, there was probably hundreds of dudes riding T-bars and having cool shit. Guess what? Who the fuck knows them? How is everybody in the world guilty of not giving somebody credit that didn't give them the chance to have credit for it, right? How many people were probably the first at everything but never showed anybody?
If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a noise?
Is it my responsibility to go find out whose tree fell first?
Right.
So,
But what makes them performance?
it's not performance is the worst word,
Yeah, that's
because at the end of the day,
Because I had a bagger. I had an Ultra Classic. There was nothing fucking performance about it.
True.
It was a fucking sled.
and most of them are, but
I think performance in this case means a general upgrade from stock. Like there's like a
And that's fair. I'll take that as a good description.
It's almost like a a prerequisite kind of thing.
So FXR, I'm guilty of it. I've been at gas stations and had dudes walk to me and say, "Hey man, what is that, a Sportster?" Right?
Right.
Well, that's almost like me putting on my bike. Looks like it looks. It looks nothing like a stock bagger.
Right.
In a sense, I guess it kind of does. It depends.
No,
what
it
you
doesn't, because the paint throws it off.
Well,
doesn't
yeah,
look
the paint,
factory,
but I
and
mean,
you got all kinds of crazy shit on it.
My bike looks nothing like a big wheel bagger. That's totally opposite. They have stretched everything. They got big wheels.
Right.
But big wheel baggers used to do mid controls a lot. That's where I first started seeing mid. That's all the mid controls that were out for baggers whenever this shit started were from big wheel bagger companies.
So do you believe that the original performance bagger was truly the big wheel bagger? Because those are the guys that started building the motors and made performance. Or
I think the original performance baggers were, put like this, the way that my bike looks, and my bike looks like what the air quotes term is performance baggers.
correct.
What everybody else's bike looks like is a lot of different versions of baggers, but they're
Right.
not the way all of ours looked. It looked the same. So just like Mayans has a show out with Softails,
Right.
is that everybody Softail is now a Vikla?
Vikla.
Is everybody Softail that just because they have a Softail?
Because they have it set up.
Because they put Carlini's on it, all of a sudden now they're just automatically in that club?
I don't know how they.
It's weird, right? Because
Right.
it's a smaller demographic.
the generalization.
It's a generalization,
Right.
Right.
Because I was talking to John about this, Jessup, and he was in that bagger league racing, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, why don't you take an FXR bagger and race that? It's much lighter. You can put a big ass motor in it. It handles better. You can put the suspension on it. They wouldn't let him put it in there. They wouldn't let him race the FXR in the performance bagger class.
Well, I love FXRs, but they don't compare to M8 baggers on the track, all that stuff. No.
I don't know. I've never ridden an M8
They don't.
bagger, so
No. Obviously the frame is derived from an FXR, so there's a lot of FXR technology in these bikes, but if you're just talking about a modern bike versus an older bike, they just
Sure.
it's the Softails even are way more stout on the road.
the new ones are supposed to be phenomenal.
Yeah, but it's not to take away what an FXR is. It's just one of those weird places where we get caught up in all this nomenclature of what these bikes are because of all our tribalistic cliques that we get involved in, and I'm guilty of it too. And I'm not saying it's like bad to be a part of it, but like I try to do in this podcast, I try to show love to all these different places and all these different cultures, especially the ones that's influenced me, like the FXR culture, because I have respect for it. And I know that you don't have this performance bagger culture right now without the FXR culture or the Dyna culture for that matter. So when I think of like all these, like you're talking about the East Bay Dragons and these guys up in the Bay Area that have been building these fucking retarded baggers that fucking rip straight. They don't fucking turn, but they go straight real fucking hard. We're not a child of them as much as we're a child of FXRs and Dynas.
So do you think the FXR and Dyna brought you more of the suspension act of it? With the cartridges,
they brought us
and
the style and the suspension and the things that everything that people were doing on Dynas and FXRs, they started doing to baggers. That's why I think it is a child of that culture, not a child of turbos and fucking big motors. People just like started doing that because it's available. Like we were saying, like baggers have had all these parts available because it's been a big industry for years.
Yeah, it's the biggest industry of the Harley Davidson sales.
So that's why we're fucked, right? Because we've already had big motors and big opportunities all these places. Some companies had to adapt to make parts that looked like what we wanted. Yeah, there was 2-in-1s and things like that, but when Fab 28 first came out, they weren't doing a lot of bagger pipes. They were doing Dynas and FXRs.
Are they still in business?
I believe so, I think.
I haven't seen much from those guys.
I don't know what's going on, but they, our buddy Bruce, he bought my bagger. He's got a new Fab 28 pipe that's co-built with FXR division. It's fucking sick. It's really nice, but it's just one of the look. I got to have. Obviously, it's going to be in Ventura too, but I have to sit down and do a podcast with a guy who disagrees with me about everything, and I have to have this conversation again in a couple of days.
I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah. I'm
just wondering what is the specific to make it performance.
I don't think that. I mean, if the whole culture of performance baggers wanted to nominate me as the president, then I would go figure out how to like verbiage this whole fucking thing and bring out the best Obama speech I could ever come out with.
Well, it already comes with really good brakes, right? The newest.
They're pretty fucking good.
Brembos, so there's not really an upgrade to be made there. Mm-hmm. It already comes with a great powertrain. So there's really not a great upgrade to be made there. Yeah, you can put a pipe on it. Yeah, you can put mid controls on it. Yeah, you can change the seat. You can do a little bit of suspension work.
If you're kind of leaning towards this, I will give you this. If you have credit, it's a cheaper buy-in than buying an FXR and making it do the same thing.
Oh, absolutely, because you can purchase one on a loan. Mm-hmm. So I was just curious as to, because like your bike is pretty exotic, right?
It's pretty mild compared to most people's, but
really?
I customize my bike to do what I just did, to be sitting here in your driveway at 3,600 miles with fucking bugs and rain from the last 3 days and hoping that we catch a good fucking car wash when we get to Reno tomorrow to spray it down and look half decent. Like,
oh yeah, it's a beautiful bike, but that bike is by far surpasses anything in this area as far as visual.
Yeah,
but yet those people have the same verbiage for their bikes.
Yeah, that's because it was in, like I said, there was no precedent to the naming of this type of bike. It just rolled off the tongue when it all started, and I'm guilty of on this podcast in the early days when you first started listening, saying like performance bagger. Next thing you know, it becomes through this podcast and through many other sources of people finding these bikes, it becomes a thing, right?
Well, it's a great marketing niche.
It is, until everybody wants to be on it, and then they hate you because they're not allowed, and then they get mad at me because I said ape hangers aren't allowed, and they're like fucking weird about it. But
well, you put T-bars on them. I mean, it's the same thing, just shaped different, right?
It's fun. Well,
it's a weird thing because, like I said earlier, about like it feels like there's a whole demographic of dudes not even necessarily our age, because Dawn, in Twin Falls, that's with Brian. There's it does perform. There's a bunch of dudes that identify as as funny as it sounds. You say performance baggers, and their ears perk up, and they're like, "Oh, those are my guys." But they may have a Dyna. Fuck, they may have a Sportster. It's. For me, it's a positive thing. It's our kind of culture. It's our younger than the hog chap. Yeah. Yes, it's a culture thing. Exactly. Right. Genius way to say it. More than it is a specific more than like a Facebook group. Like, what are the criteria to get in here? You have to this, or this. To me, it's more like I said. It's a general. You put some effort into your bike to make it not stock. We all kind of fuck with the same shit. We're all friends. Performance baggers or Club Saldinas, like it's you know what I mean. Like, but I look at it as like a kumbaya kind of thing. Like I'm not the gatekeeper for.
I will tell you,
any means.
One of the criteria up here in this area to ride a performance bagger, and everyone that I've seen up here, they're really big on the fucking bedazzled jeans.
Yeah,
it's a fucking new thing. I mean,
it's not new from where we're from.
Well, in California, it was big like 10 years ago, but up here, it's like just catching on. So
yeah, you got to relive it.
Not me.
Well, the same thing for us in Texas. I mean, when I started getting into the FXR shit and the Dyna stuff, even and going to bike nights and things like that, like you feel like the biggest oddball there is. Like, you're not going to a place full of the same people that have bikes similar to yours.
Correct.
And that's why I try, and I'm probably done the worst job at it, but people don't understand, especially people that, our biggest listenership of this podcast is people from LA, people in SoCal, right? They don't, generalization, they don't understand what it's like for people in the rest of the country that don't have this culture that you have, what it's like to take a flavor of your culture, put it on their bike, and then go to a local bike night in Boise, Idaho. You know what I'm saying? Or in fucking Des Moines. How do you say it? Iowa. You know what I'm saying?
Des Moines, right?
Des Moines. Yeah.
It's like, Boise.
Boise. Oh, gotta put that gay on the back.
It's like
of it.
a C. It's a C. But what you have in Texas with your bike. Mm-hmm. Is you have marketability.
Yeah.
And that's your business. That's what you do for a living. Mm-hmm. People see that and go, shit, I mean, I want my bike to look cool like that. So they're willing to invest the money through your business for you to create that for them.
See that? So this is another difference. I did my bike. I don't build bikes for anybody. Right. And so the only thing I offer is paint, and for the longest in performance baggers, that was the last thing people ever gave a fuck about. They wanted carbon fiber, right? I am a biker. At least I would like to think I am. I enjoy riding bikes, and this is the type of bike I have the most fun on right now in my life.
Sure.
And so naturally, I am a promoter of things that I do and things that I love. And so I'm on this bike right now, and I'm having a great time, and I'm doing all the things that in some form or fashion is inspiring other people want to try it. And unfortunately, we don't get I don't get stars for every person I influence or inspire or whatever. But that's not why I do it. You know what I mean? That's not why I jumped on my bike and want to do this trip. I want to do this trip for all these experiences, riding these roads in Idaho that fucking blew my mind, right? While I'm out there and there's no service, I'm not going live. Hey guys, you just missed out on this fucking like. I'm not that guy. I'm just out there like, I've been telling everybody on this podcast, like, I want to do YouTube videos so bad, but I get so lost and so in the moment of things that I don't fucking think about pulling out a camera and going, "What's up, guys? Here we are. We're at this fucking spot. It's amazing. Jaden, what do you think about it?" We're like.
Yeah, it's harder than it looks.
It's your private life. You don't have to advertise every step of the way.
It's hard to find words for it.
Some of that shit is sacred that you keep in, and it's just in that Rolodex file of life experiences, and that doesn't all get shared.
What inspired me to want to travel is pictures of places that I want to see, right? And I feel like if I video this trip through one of the most amazing rides down fucking, what was it, 95 we rode? I think it was 95 we rode down.
Today?
yesterday.
With the weather, yesterday was such a mental day. It was some of the most beautiful shit I've ever seen in my life, but the weather was just so miserable that it was just a really tough mix of you're trying to enjoy it and trying to take advantage of where you're at, but you're just eating shit. You're getting through it.
Yeah.
So to speak.
I mean, maybe another day, another time, you can relive that.
Oh, I'll be fucking back
on a better weather day.
Oh, there's no doubt. I'll be back to do the.
There is some beauty
run
up here. Not like there's not beauty in California. Not like there's not beauty in Arizona. Not like there's not beauty in Texas. Every different region of the country has its own unique type of beauty.
Yeah.
And we only live once. So it is nice to be able to experience all those things because realistically, you can't take anything with you except for your memories.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, but that almost sounded like you just undersold Idaho, and
we're full.
I want to reinforce the point. No, like on like I said, we've just seen from coming up from Monument Valley, Northern California, which way blew my mind. Oregon, Washington. We'd already seen all the badass shit. As we're leaving like Western or Eastern Washington, it's like, okay, the fun part of the trip is over. And then all of a sudden we start going through Idaho, Missoula, and then start coming down back through Idaho. Idaho is insane. We just got bad weather, but it is on top of all the amazing shit I just saw. All of a sudden I'm going, is this the best shit of the trip? Is this...
Did you make it all the way to the western side of Washington, northwest? Like
we didn't get to go that far. No.
Up there where all those the ocean comes in and there's all those islands and shit out there. That's
we had to
spectacular.
cut off. We had to cut off of in Oregon, just basically by Eugene. Was it Eugene? We had to cut straight over to Eugene because there was a big storm coming in.
Did you stop in Eugene?
We tried.
By the university?
It was too packed, so we went to the next town up, Salem. We had a good time in Salem. We had an Airbnb there. Had a great time.
Yeah.
I wish one of these years I could get together with you or a group like yourselves and just check out for 2-3 weeks a month. Just I need it. You know, at my age, it's like I don't have a lot of years left. They're ticking by a lot faster as you get older. And I would like to go do that and experience. I've done a lot of shit in my life, and I've traveled to a lot of places. You know, back in the day, I was on a plane 48 weekends out of the year, traveling to different states and countries and racing bikes. And but I never got to see anything because I was there for an event to be an athlete, you know, and it was just all focus on being an athlete. I would like to take time for me and go do that.
To play a little devil's advocate, you got to experience that in a way that none of us ever will. Like we'll never get to experience what it's like to go to another country to compete for.
But that's work.
It is work, but I mean, work is second nature to man as fucking coming is, dude. Straight up,
Killing me.
Is it not?
Gotta work.
If you're not working, do you feel like a man? Do you feel like a man?
Exactly. I feel like a piece of shit.
So
you know?
Coming or working, bro? We doing.
I need to talk to Joe Kidd and see what his angle is. How he can just bounce out. Like, what is he doing? You know, is he living in a cardboard
slinging.
box or fuck? What is he
stacks
doing?
money. I've seen him. Like when I talk to him,
He stacks chips.
He's usually got like 20 grand in his pocket. He's done a couple things leading up to that where he's like, I don't gotta work right now. I'm traveling, and I've seen him with the stack in his pocket.
He's got a good mindset.
Whatever he does, he's figured it out. What
Yeah,
works for him,
he does.
and he does good.
Yeah, but he's not going home to a big ass mortgage, and I mean he has a chick, I believe, at this moment, but he's not going home to like.
He has a chick at this one. He has a chick everywhere he fucking stops. I love Joe.
I'm not trying to fucking burn his.
Nah, I take that back. But you know it's true.
But it's like you know, everybody has their life set up a different way. I mean,
Right.
you know, at the same time, I mean, and I'm not trying to throw Jaden on the bus or even myself right now, but we're here on this extended version of this trip out of circumstances that most people wouldn't have. This isn't because we have it made. You know what I mean? It's because we have an opportunity, and
Right.
we in some form of fate, some ways this opportunity came out of dumb luck.
I'm unemployed. My if everything was still status quo as it was, a month and a half ago, I'd be with those guys. I would have no choice but to be with those guys. But it worked out where I met them. I answer no master. Right now, like I've got enough money to get this thing done, and we're just gonna roll the dice and try to make it happen. But yeah, I don't have a boss. I don't have a kid or anything at the house. It's just like, you have to get back by this. So I had the opportunity to extend the trip and continue on to Born Free, which in what my normal work world is, it's usually month end driven. So Born Free, which is always a month end event, it's very unlikely. Like, that's one of the things I can almost never get to, no matter how bad I want to, just because it's hard to take off that time of the month. So it kind of, I want to say it seems like a no brainer, but I didn't make the decision till literally a Boise Fry that I'd already made it, but that's when I made it official. Like, fuck it, I'm going. With you. Yeah, because how many times do you get a chance to be gone a month on the road? And like I said, you don't. It is what it is. I don't know.
So it's all, and I have a million problems that I need to tackle right now, but they're pushed off far enough where they'll be there in August and September, and I can deal with them.
Your problems will always be there when you come back.
Yeah, so it's all that, man. It's and I don't know. I mean,
fuck it, it's worth it for me, for the stress or the unknown or whatever. Fuck it, I'll live on it.
You know what?
There's too many times in my life I've laid up and I've played it safe that didn't really work. Like, didn't really.
Then
whatever.
You have those
fuck
regrets. Like, what if I would have just took off for a month?
And
That's
today,
cool.
I don't know. It's just after it was super sad, like you said earlier, leaving the guys. It was such a. I feel like I'm kind of letting them down in some way, but this is a whole different experience. And I mean, it's from the minute we rolled up here, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
You're gonna have a great adventure with Jace because, first of all, it's always nice to have a companion when you're traveling, so it's good for him, and then you get to experience all of his setup arrangements that he's got going. So it's not like you're gonna be bored.
Yeah, and it's
I mean, I got a stack of badass podcasts to do with a lot of cool people, and we're staying with a lot of cool people, and we're staying in a lot of cool areas, and then we're linking up with some other homies that are coming to Born Free and staying with them. So the hardest part is being away from home, being away from my wife and my life. That's been kind of a that's definitely a tough one.
There's no cameras. Keep going.
But at the same time, like, I'm really trying to go more full time with this podcast stuff, and I felt like I needed a good, real solid run to the West Coast to get some more names on it, to solidify the podcast a little bit more, and make it to where hopefully I can continue to build it to where I can live off of it. You know what I mean? That's the goal.
Wow.
And now, I mean, it's a long way to be able to live off of, but it's not. I don't think it's unfathomable. If that makes sense.
Joe Rogan's living enough for all of us combined, and he's doing it.
Well, I mean, I'm not Joe Rogan, but
but he started somewhere.
Yeah,
and it can happen. You never
Joe
know.
Rogan of motorcycles, my man.
So tell me about the painting. I mean, are you still balls deep in the helmets? And
helmets are still going good. I have one more bagger that I have to paint. That it's up for grabs if somebody wants it. But that's probably gonna be the last bike I do out of my shop. Yeah, I'll do bikes for. I mean, I have a lot of connections with a lot of different painters that don't do custom paint. So I'll be doing some artwork for people. But as far as me painting a whole bike, a whole bagger out of my shop, it's probably not going to happen anymore after this.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a sad day.
It's not, man. It's bittersweet.
It's a sad day for all the people out there that want one of your paint jobs.
They didn't want it that bad.
Just buy a bagger or a softail. I mean, a softail or a Dyna.
Yeah, I'll paint
or
those.
Or an FXR.
Oh, the smaller. So you'll paint the smaller bikes, but the big bikes are just too much, too many pieces.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's open season for all the small bikes, but I'll pick and choose things that work.
Yeah, no RP fairings either.
Yeah, fuck RP.
It's got to be T-Sport fairings or less.
Wow.
Fuck that shit. I'd rather just paint a bagger again. No, but it's time consuming, and the podcast can be better if I can devote more time to it, and the content that we create for Patreon could be better if I had the time to do it. And these other areas don't have a cap on to how much we could possibly make by doing these things. So if I don't create it's like the painting has been a constant up, and the podcast is now growing, and they're at a point where I need to focus on one or the other primarily.
But you're a legit painter, like a legit. You can't just throw that away. You can't just.
No, I'm not
that.
going to stop. I'm always going to paint. Like I always keep my foot in it. But the problem is that painting has a cap on what you can make, and it's dictated by the collision industry, which is constantly going up. So collision industry is dictated by the insurance industry, and the insurance industry keeps raising prices. Now, when I was a kid growing up, you can have a fender bender, and that could cost $1,500 to fix. Now, a fender bender in a car is $15,000 to fix, right? Well, paint companies want their money, insurance companies want their money, so all the materials go up and up and up. Well, now those same materials cost me 20 to 100 times more than what it costed when I started painting. Well, I can't raise my prices with the same increases that the industry raises their prices. So when people are like, "Oh, this dude wants $10,000 to paint a bagger," well,
it's a one-off piece of art. That's a whole different game.
People don't buy paint for art; they buy paint for status and materialism, right? That's what it is. It's a pipe. It's a set of wheels. It's another thing on the list. It's not art for people. It might be art that I'm creating. It's not taken as art for a lot of people.
Because I took it as
this
is a one-off piece. It's not like you mass-produce my paint job.
Exactly, but that's what people also think is they also think that once you do that color, that they own that color forever, and I can never paint a fucking other blue bike. Oh, yeah, where'd you get that idea from? I'm like, dude, get the fuck out of here. So the industry has more stress than money,
right?
And while I do love the artistic nature of it, I'm also at a point where I have enough customers and enough people where I can stay busy painting bikes or painting helmets that I'll be happy. You know what I mean?
I think if the money's right on the helmet, I think the helmet is a big enough art piece that it never gets sold. So when someone sticks their head in a helmet, that helmet's theirs for life.
Yeah.
It's rare that someone would. You might sell a bike, or you might sell a tin set, but once you put a helmet on, you rarely would. No one would buy a helmet either. But I want to put my head in someone else's sweaty helmet.
Yeah.
That's a piece of art. That's why that helmet that I have that was painted 3-4 years ago. Mm-hmm. That's a piece of art. That's going to be like a Banksy in like 20 years, you know?
I hope so. And I hope I'm around to get some Banksy money on that shit. You know what I mean?
I'm not giving that thing up for nothing. I ride with that helmet, but if I never rode again, that helmet would sit up somewhere in my house as a piece of art.
Well, that's the concept is like, you know, if you really think about it, like if you want people to really like put it like this, every day I get asked about painting something, right? And most people are like, I got the money, I want to do it now. Well, then I hit them with I'm not taking any work right now. Then you got like, oh, there's an obstacle for me to spend my money with you. For a lot of people, I've been blessed to deal with a lot of very wealthy people, and some of them are saints. They understand it. They respect me. They respect my craft, as opposed to, like me thinking that I should be sucking their dick because they have money to buy something. You know what I mean? Because like I told you before, like I don't give a shit who you are, how much money you make. I charge this, and this is what I charge. I don't like. I had some fucking rapper dude that just kept telling me he would pay me all this money. I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck about any of that. This is what it costs. If you want to rush, I have a rush fee. This is what it costs. That's what it is. And then do it. He fucking kept running me around. And then he wanted me to paint some other shit for him. I was like, dude, I did what I told you I was going to do. You didn't do what you said you was going to do. So we're done as me and you doing business together. And this dude was trying to get me to paint a fucking bagger for like $25,000. Right?
Did he have the paper?
I mean, he paid me $5,000 for a fucking helmet.
So he had paper.
But he played some kind of game where he kept talking about how much money he had and how, I want to do this, I want to do this. I'm like, money doesn't inspire me. Relationships do.
Right.
You know what I mean? connections. Like everybody, like homie himself, one of my biggest helmet customers. I fuck with that dude. If that dude has a birthday, I'm on his shit. Like, bro, happy birthday. I genuinely hope he has a fucking great day on his birthday.
Well, you
know
developed that relationship, and I think when me and you first met, you know, I wanted a paint job that was unique. These were the colors I liked, but I didn't stand over your shoulder and say,
yeah,
do it like this. I said, do your art.
Yeah.
Do your art. Do you. Because I already know in my head that your shit is dope.
Well,
it's going to come out dope. I fucked it up, though. I did fuck up that tank, and then I fucking got hit, and I fucked up the fairing. I fucked that paint job up a couple times.
Well, I mean, when it comes to paint, though, when it comes to this, I mean, I'm sure in the 60s you can get some Arlen S. original shit. It wasn't until he couldn't do something for everybody that it became very valuable.
Right.
Right? And so when he gets to a point where I can't do 40 helmets a year, I can only do 12, I think that my work might be more valuable, and I'm not trying to do that by design. It's just because I have other opportunities that can pay more for less of my time, and that is just growth. And some people don't listen to this podcast and don't value me other than the paint work, and that's fine. That's completely fine. If I can get more people to value this podcast more than my paint, then I can always paint for fun and never for livelihood. And I think that I'll be doing the best work of my life in a place where I don't have to rely on it for my food. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the way that me and you have a relationship, I don't even look at you as a painter.
Yeah.
I look at you as my friend.
Exactly.
And that's a whole different thing. I don't want nothing from you. You don't want nothing from me. We're family now.
Other than a podcast, finally. Thank you.
Probably was terrible. I don't know how I compete with Joe Kidd, you know. We can go back to the motorcycle stuff, though.
No, dude,
I'll tell you,
this
the
has been
FXR
great.
Jam is coming up. If any of you have never been to
so
that.
that is going to be, what's the dates on that again? It's going to be...
I think it's a 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. So it's
Yes.
actually 15, 16,
So in
17.
July. So
Yeah,
this
it's a
will be
month.
out by then. Because you're the first podcast on this trip, so you'll be going out at the end of this month, which will be like the 29th or 30th.
Yeah, it's legit. I've never seen so many bikes in the same, and they're clean bikes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, there's some raggedy ones, but anybody who's there rode it there.
Yeah.
You know, there's
So
no
you respect
trailers.
it the same way, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jessup trailered a couple, I think, and then the boys from Texas, but they watered their truck up last year on the way
yeah.
back.
FXR Mike and Don
Yeah.
and a Dusty.
But everybody else, I mean, everyone's there. They've ridden there, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
that's honorable. And there's no marketing going on there. It is like that's probably my favorite event in the motorcycle culture right now, because there's not a million vendors selling shitty gloves and fucking vest chains and all kinds of fake leather wallets and all kinds of bullshit. It's just guys that ride. They're not.
Yeah.
No one's selling nothing.
Yeah.
It's just guys that ride. And to me, that's really what it's all about. I'm tired of seeing the exact same fucking Laughlin t-shirts, the exact same wallet chain shit. It's all the same shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, trust me, we designed our camp out off that same concept. We designed it with the with what I had grown up with loving about what the East Coast FXR Jam was, what Giddy Up was for us here in Texas. That's what we designed the camp out of. We didn't want vendors. We wanted brand presence, but not vendors. You know, we wanted the brands to be there, geeking out on bikes, riding bikes, you know, drinking beers, hanging out, being there to party and be what they were before they started their brand.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And not trying to make a buck on anybody. Just sure, your name is golden or whatever, if your name is or isn't, but you're not trying to capitalize on other people's money.
And doing these podcasts over the last, 4.5 years now, when I sit down with the younger brands, they're so enthusiastic about, because they love riding still. You know what I mean? And they're so happy that their brand's going well and it's going places, they're getting notoriety. And then I talk to these guys that's been in it for 20, sometimes 30 years, even 10 years sometimes, and the enthusiasm is gone, but they shield themselves from motorcycles because they're anxiety and their stress comes from motorcycles. So they don't go back and enjoy what is about motorcycles that made them want to do it, right?
Well, you lose that passion.
They get jet boats. They go fucking do all these other things because they want to. And some of it, I get it. You got a family, you got kids, you want to go do things like that. But they never just jump on a bike and say, you know what, we're going to do this trip. This ain't about business. This is about fucking loving motorcycles. And you'd be surprised at how many people that I've talked to they put the show on for the podcast, and afterwards they're just a fucking wreck. You know?
If you look at the thrashing guys, and I don't have any thrashing parts, I don't promote them any which way or the other, but those guys all get together, 8 or 10 of those dudes. I know Cole Seeley hangs out with those guys a lot, and they get on bikes and they fucking bounce up to Mammoth from LA, or they go bounce together. It's like, that's kind of what it's about, right?
It is 100%.
And yeah, they found an angle to make some money in this industry that they enjoy, but they continue to enjoy the riding part of it. And that's if you're not enjoying the motorcycle riding aspect of it, you're just a fucking
vulture.
A vulture. That's a perfect word for it. You're just taking from the industry.
You're not putting nothing back on the table for
nothing.
What I would say about Lance and those guys is that they designed, he had a great break. He had a great opportunity that came from a lot of hard work of him riding doing freestyle motocross, right? And he capitalized off of who he became with his new passion for riding Harley Davidsons.
I got this close to doing that.
Yeah.
Because, I designed all those bike parts. Mm-hmm. And actually, the guy who lives right behind me, there's a big factory back there. Sector 7. They make all kinds of these off-road quad lighting things. Mm-hmm. And there's another company. He's got 2 companies. And I contacted the guy. I said, hey, look, I was a previous designer. I designed all these bike parts. I have a piece that I want to prototype and possibly fabricate. And the guy hemmed and hawed and kind of blew me off. So I hit him up like a month later. Hey, just want to touch base. He lives right behind me. I mean, you hit a golf ball to that. It's a big compound back there. He's got all kinds of CNC machines, and I wanted to get back into fabricating parts and stuff. And I got a really good concept in my mind, and I have all the talent to draw all this stuff. I just, with my life being so busy, I haven't chased that. Mm-hmm. And really pushed it, but it's something that is a necessity out in the industry right now in the bagger FXR world.
Yeah,
and you notice they're selling the bagger or the FXR style fairings. They're putting them on Dynas, they're putting them on road glides, they're putting them on everything, right?
Yeah.
So
Indians,
the RP fairing and the RT fairing.
Yeah, there's
like 3 or 4 aftermarket fairing companies. Mm-hmm. So. It's a thought that's still ticking around in my head, but we can talk about that off of this.
You want none of these fucking vultures stealing that shit? Yeah,
no, it's too good. It's too good.
Yeah, man, it's a weird one, man. There's so much shit out there that like there's like we were saying earlier, like social media. It's great for us to connect, but it's also great for us to vent. And every time you see someone that does something or puts out something, or they're not as biker as you thought that they should be, or as you are, why do you got this opportunity? You don't deserve this. You know what I mean? Thrashing, I'm good friends with those guys. They've been dealing with that quite a bit because everybody thinks they're privileged, but they don't understand that hard work is hard work. And
they have a name because of hard work.
Yeah, and they don't understand that. Or people might understand the fact that like a lot of brands and everybody that rides Dynas and FXRs and shit are all like America, right? Well, guess what thrashing does? They employ people. They pay taxes for their employees.
Right.
And half of these brands that are on the spectrum of what is Dyna FXR culture are fucking just pages that have a fucking online store. They have no employees. They have no storefront. They're not necessarily providing anything for the community in which they live in, right? They take. They don't put anything back. Nobody's employed by them. There's no taxes being paid other than the sales tax they're making off their T-shirts, right? So they don't have the fucking right to go attack somebody that's fucking putting people's like some dude online is talking shit about a brand because they don't like a new peg that came out, right? And so they want to talk shit and bash this company. That company has 5 or 6 other people, maybe even 10, I believe, who are paying their rent by working at a place.
Well, if you don't like the peg, go buy a different peg. You know, I had a problem with the company. I bought a part. It disintegrated. I talked a little bit of shit because the guys just didn't even respond. And, you know, it was an expensive part. But then it's like, all right, fuck it. I'll go get something else that I like.
There's a place for that, though. There's a place where, you know, there's a place where when you have a product, you have a fail, that you reach out and you try to get it solved. You know, if they don't solve it, if they don't acknowledge you, then you know what? At that point, that's on the company at that point.
Right.
But what I see is not that. I see a lot of people that are mad because their shit didn't ship 15 minutes after they placed the order. They didn't get a tracking number, right? Because they're used to Amazon Prime.
Oh, try and buy a track dynamic swing arm right now. See how long that takes
you might see it in the next presidency.
Yeah, it's difficult for every industry, for every business, for at this point in time in our life with our political climate, with gasoline being X price and with shipping being X price, it's difficult. You can't immediately get results anymore right now. It's going to take a little while.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Yeah, well, I agree, man. It's a weird one. But it's the culture we live in, and, you know, we're all trying to fucking reshape it to be the good. And I'm hoping that my generation steps up and does what they can. I hope we get the opportunity to. It's another thing.
You're going to be fine. You're a youngster.
Maybe. Yeah.
We're not going to have World War III or nothing. You're going to have years. No.
I tell you what,
No,
if it
we're
does,
gonna-
I'm
we're
fucking
gonna-
coming to Boise and hanging out with you.
Dude, we're stockpiled up here.
Yeah, for sure. But
I'm like, hey, man, all I got is a fucking 9 and like 2 boxes of ammo. Can I come be a part of your militia?
I saw your Palmetto.
Don't say militia.
I saw your Palmetto sticker. That's
We got more than Palmetto.
well, you had like 10 of. I have 1 of, and it's Palmetto. And another thing you have like 10 of. I have like 1 of 1K, and I was like, all right.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
I got all kinds of fucking Afghani fucking army surplus shit. I got some other shit. We're good up here.
Hell yeah. Well, hey, Vic, thank you for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a long time coming.
Dude, I love you for coming up here, man. I know
Stoked.
you didn't come up here just for me, but I'm glad you came up here and
Well,
spent time with me.
It was you know, I knew I was coming through Boise. I didn't know how it was going to work out because I know that you got your gig here. But it all just kind of landed in a good way. And I mean, the wife cooked a fucking badass steak tonight. I guess you cooked it, but she prepped it, but she did all the other
She
shit.
doesn't get no fucking credit for that.
You guys are amazing, both of y'all. I
did a
tried to
great
do
job.
the dishes, and she told me to fuck off.
Yeah, well, it's her kitchen, man. I'm not even allowed in there.
Well, I really appreciate the hospitality, man. It's comforting as fuck, man.
I know that if I ever rode through Texas, I know for a minute that I could fucking land at your house. So I'm not
dude, this
sweating
dude's
it
confident.
whatsoever. I am that confident.
You
I am.
definitely allowed. I'll even let you sleep in my own bed.
Does
Me
your
and my
wife?
wife will take that.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry.
we put
I don't know what the fuck you got going on down there, but
Don't leave it in
I
my
don't
bed.
I don't want to ruin your future.
I'm leaving a print of that hammer in my sheets.
you're gonna ruin my shit over it.
Right, it'd be like a warm bowl of oatmeal once I walk in.
You don't say that.
Fuck. Well, I hope that you guys have a safe trip down to Oregon and down into Nevada, all the way into NorCal, Reno.
Yep.
And it should be beautiful tomorrow.
Yeah, we need it. We need some good weather. We've been.
You're going to get it from here on out for sure.
That's the hope, because I just shipped all the fucking marine gear home.
I got more.
And I'm
if
ready
you
to
wanna
throw
take some.
mine away. But yeah, we've had 36-degree weather, snow,
No, you're not going to get that from here on out.
shitty. But this is recap podcast stuff, but again, what I was saying earlier about Idaho, as bad as the weather was the last couple of days, and trust me, it was that you go through some rain and just about the time it stops and your shoes start drying out from the wind. You're still cold as fuck, but they start drying off. Just about the time you think you're good, you go around a curve and it's like, hello. And it's like that Winnie the Pooh dark cloud over you again. We went through that. I said something on the, I'm ready to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Motherfucker, I regretted saying that.
You're going to be fine tomorrow.
But it was, as bad as the weather was, it was some of the most beautiful shit I've ever seen. And I cannot wait to get up here when La Nina or whatever's going on is not around. And because all the locals said, it's never this wet and it's never this cold. You guys are picked the worst time to do it. So I'll be back, and Idaho is a whole
What
state.
do they call it?
Is
Liquid
insane.
sunshine up here?
I don't know. Is that the meth?
No,
shit
it's
that you're
I think when we were up in Washington, and when they were calling it liquid sunshine or something like that.
getting? Yeah, I don't know nothing about that.
I don't remember
It's been a
I don't
unique
remember.
transition to move from Southern California, where it's sunny 300 days out of the year, up, and they have no water in California, and then you move up here and there's lakes everywhere and there's rivers and everything's so green, and it's a transition. It's not for everybody, but I'm glad it's not for everybody because it's already full. I don't think there's any more room
I
in
saw
Idaho.
like 4 lots over there, dude.
I saw a bunch of wide open stuff too. Idaho's open for the taking, y'all.
Fuck it up for them.
Fucking Californians just ruined this place.
It's like
But
all the
this
Californians come here like, I'm not the problem. It's y'all.
Yeah.
No, I came up here to fit in, but I really like the speed limit's 80 miles an hour on the freeway. That's some cool shit.
Yeah.
You know?
It is. Except for the small towns, it's 25 miles an hour. It's like, you know how
The
hard it is
speed
to do-
traps, they got to
Yeah.
get their money somehow.
You know how hard it is to do 25 miles an hour on a fucking
Performance
Harley?
bagger.
Knock on wood. I may be jinxing it.
Tell the cops when you go through, hey man, this is performance. I can't get down to that speed.
You mean to those towns that I've just obliterated those speeds because usually I'm trying to catch up with y'all as we're getting into a town. So we hit the 25 and I'm 75, just smoking it through town, passing cars until I see a helmet, until I see a painted helmet.
So tomorrow, going through Jordan Valley,
Yeah.
going through McDermott, those two towns, they're a one-stop shop. You blink your eye, you pass it. But those are both little like that movie Cars. You know, it's a little one-stop town, and there's usually like a boss hog, Dukes of Hazzard cop sitting out there
Nice.
doing nothing.
Another good thing about Idaho, I was catching up to you guys and I came around a corner. And there's a white truck sitting off on a pull-off. And I'm clipping along pretty good, and I couldn't tell if it was a cop or not. But as I got closer, he just lit up his back lights, and as soon as he did it, I just kind of let off and slowed down, and it was like a thank you. And he didn't come after me, but he gave me a hey buddy, take it down a notch.
Yeah, they're pretty chill out here.
It's good times.
It's pretty good.
Well, Vic, do you want people to follow you on social media?
No,
I feel
not
like you
really.
don't.
I'm not on it much. I just check out what's going on in the world. I don't
You're a
post a whole lot.
creeper.
You can call it whatever you want. I'm a pretty private dude, and
It's
the
not
people.
creeping. It's not creeping if it's public information.
Right.
If they put it out there, their stuff is
Yeah,
public.
they're throwing it out there. Any
like
of
a
my
library.
friends that know me know how to get a hold of me.
Yeah. Well, you can catch him at the FXR Jam, West Coast FXR Jam. He's gonna be. Are you gonna ride the RD down there? That's the
Yeah.
plan.
In the next Fast Life Campout. Fast Life Campout 6.
We're at the
We're
fly,
gonna have to-
man. He's
we're
gonna be a
have to think
special
about that.
guest.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to fly, man.
fine.
I can't take that many days off of work. I don't
We'll
have
we'll
that
have
Joe
an
Kid
RV set
life.
up for you. Ready
I tried to
go.
get
I'll
Joe
check.
Kidd to ride my bagger once, and he said no because he knew I was gonna take pictures. So I'll definitely fly you into the Fast Life Campout so you can ride a bagger to 150 miles north, so I can change your life.
No, I'm good. I had a bag. I'm good. I had an Ultra Classic. I know what it's like
not
to
the
ride a
same.
bag. It was pretty performance. I think it was a 96.
There you go.
Ride one of the new Softails.
It had
or the
heated
new
grips.
FXRs.
Does the heated grips count as performance?
No.
It's
No.
warming performance.
That's hog chapter stuff.
Oh, okay. All right, gentlemen.
All right, bud.
It's
Thanks,
time
man.
for a
I'm gonna get
break.
this dude on a new Softail. That's what's gonna
I'm
happen.
gonna have a smoke.
All right. Appreciate it, Vic. Thank you.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I want to thank Vic again, and I would also like to thank his wife for cooking an amazing dinner for us that night, and the hospitality out there in Boise, Idaho. Really had a great time on this trip, and I can't wait to do the wrap-up podcast with all the homies. I think we're going to be doing it this Friday live on our YouTube. If you want to check out all the podcasts we do live, it's all on our YouTube channel. You can check it all out right there. If you want to support this podcast, you can do so by checking out our Patreon, which is where you can get some unreleased content and know that you're helping push this podcast to the next level. Man, I have so much to talk about, but got to save it. Got to save it for the podcast. So anyway, thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Y'all go give Victor Newmark a follow if he dropped his Instagram name. I don't remember if he did. And we'll see you guys on the next episode, which will be dropping right after this one. All right. Peace.